The end has come. This episode of View the Right Thing brings October to its gruesome end. With this special Halloween episode, this week, Wes and Steve are joined by special guest Neil King as they visit the Cottage. Then the lives of three men are set on a collision course in Big Bad Wolves. Now, steel yourself for this special Halloween edition of View the Right Thing.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of
Indiana Jaws.
View the Right Thing.
Oh, still?
You know, yeah, still. What do you mean still? It's always going to be View the Right Thing. It's not changing.
I feel like one day you're going to come over to the Indiana Jaws side.
No. No, it's not
The
happening.
viewer can't see these very seductive hand gestures I'm doing.
And eyes.
Oh.
Sexy eyes. So we have a bonus person with us this episode. Neil
True.
King.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it
Hi,
going, buddy?
Neil.
What's going on, guys? Hey, guys.
Neil is a filmmaker, and he created or co-created.
Co-created, yeah.
We Are Indie Horror, which is a really cool horror community website. They track lots of good horrific things for us. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But how you guys doing?
Doing well?
Neil?
Yeah,
I'm doing very well, actually.
yeah.
It's
We've had
busy.
quite the day today.
Oh, yeah.
It's true.
Watched a couple movies. Now we're doing the recording.
Two very scary movies, but
Yeah.
some delicious din-din in between.
Yeah, it was delicious.
Yeah.
Indeed, it was.
Do you think if we shout out to Alfredo's, they'll start giving us free food every time?
I don't know.
don't-
Michelob hasn't called us yet.
Michelob hasn't called us yet. Darn it.
That's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
Try PBR.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah. They'll
They
sponsor
might.
anything, right?
Yeah, pretty
Maybe.
much.
Maybe. Why are you pointing at me? Oh, because of the thing I'm supposed to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
look behind the curtain right there.
if you're listening, these guys just pointed at me very accusatorially. No, I'm kidding. If you're listening right now, then you should have watched The Cottage and Big Bad Wolves, because what we do here on... I almost called it Indiana Jaws. Because what we do here on View the Right Thing is we're sort of like a book club for movies. So we like to tell you which movies we're going to watch. For example, at the end of this very episode, we'll tell you about 2 new movies. Then you go watch those, then you listen to the next episode. So tonight, we're having a little book club, but about movies. And those movies are The Cottage and Indiana Jaws. Feel free to tweet us and join the discussion somehow.
It's getting away from you, man.
You're making
It's
things up
almost
now.
midnight.
Yeah, it's true. It's like so. Interestingly, we had our spooky month of October,
Yes.
where we drew specifically only
Specifically
horror
drew
films,
Horror films.
and then we drew our first films for November,
Uh-huh.
and we drew 2 horror films.
Kind
Which
of
I'm
horror
very
films.
grateful for. Thank you.
Yeah, well, it gave us an opportunity to have you on, which is good.
That's true.
So I'm glad to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Got to have Neil in the house, and we got to watch 2 pretty good horror films.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
So, Steve, have you seen anything in the theater?
Yes.
What'd you see?
Just the other day, I went over to the $3 theater in my neighborhood and saw Vacation,
Big spender.
No.
starring. Well, that's how I felt going in.
Was it was it worth $3?
It was certainly worth $3. It was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be, but it was also very, very raunchy, as I assumed it was going to be.
Sure.
But there were some really good, surprising laughs that I did not expect from this movie.
All right.
Because, say what you will about the original Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation, I feel we should call it, with Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
I've never seen that movie without commercial interruption and censored for TV and what have you. So it doesn't have such a special place in my heart. And then when I saw it was sort of being remade, even though this is actually a sequel, I was like, we'll see what they do. I like the players involved.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. And it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, I remember being a kid. I don't remember the first Vacation as a kid that much. I remember specific moments.
Yeah.
I remember them eating the sandwiches after the dog peed on the picnic
Yeah.
basket.
Yeah.
And then I remember everything at Wally World.
Sure.
John Candy and stuff.
Right.
But man, do I remember European Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
European.
See, I saw that first when I was maybe 7.
Wow.
And,
My first one was Vegas.
yeah.
I saw Vegas Vacation
wow.
for my first one, yeah.
That's because you're a youngin'.
Well, and I saw it in Vegas, oddly enough. That was
Oh.
actually
Alright.
really cool, yeah. We're
Alright.
going to the Grand Canyon on a bus tour, and they put on Vegas Vacation.
Nice.
funny.
I was like, awesome.
Did it give you ideas on what kind of gambler you are?
I'm not a gambler.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was 14, when I was in Vegas
so
the
you
first
were a
time.
junior gambler.
I was a junior gambler.
All right.
But then as I got older, I started gambling, or tried to, and I failed miserably, and I felt losing my money was not worth it anymore. So
There you go.
Sure.
I just go and I look at the pretty lights, and I drink the free drinks with putting
Yeah.
$1 in the penny slots, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
I'm a
That's all I do.
blackjack guy.
It's the right way to do it.
Are you good at blackjack?
No, I mean nobody's good in Vegas, really. I mean, it's
Right. The
Unless you're counting
house
cards.
always wins, as they say. Well, yes. Never say those words. at
I
the
like
blackjack
poker.
table.
but I'm really bad at it.
I'm really good at poker, but I've been on a losing streak for about 9 years.
So you're not no longer good at poker.
No, I'm actually pretty good. I just really haven't bothered to play very much lately.
All right.
And the very last time I played, I did not win. So there's that.
How did this turn into a gambling podcast?
Because we're rambling, gambling men.
Rambling gambling.
We're
Okay.
on gamblings.
Neil, have you seen any movies in the theater recently?
Yes, I actually saw Tales of Halloween.
Yeah, how was that?
Tales of Halloween is awesome. You have 10 short films, 11 directors, and it's everything you love about Halloween just rolled up into one anthology film.
Compare it to Trick or Treat.
Oh.
Ooh, that's a very tough one. Basically, I'm going to put it this way. After I saw the film, me and my roommate decided that our new Halloween tradition is to watch Tales of Halloween and Trick or Treat together.
Nice.
Because it's very hard to compare both. Tales of Halloween is much more loosely connected, where Trick or Treat is very intertwined.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Although Tales of Halloween does have more characters and things that will move on into features and fuller
Sure.
films, or maybe even their sequel if they decide to ever try it again.
Yeah.
But then you have Sam, and Sam is just too legendary. I
Sam
can't
is
pick
the best.
Sam
can't pick a
is
better
lovely.
one though, because they're two amazing anthology films that just should be watched together as a double feature.
Which
Nice.
which story was your favorite?
In Tales,
Yeah. Or which director?
oh
had your
gosh,
favorite one.
man, they were all so
I'll
good.
put him on the spot.
Yeah, you put me on the spot.
Really?
And if any Tales of Halloween people are listening, I love you all. You guys did amazing with every single film. But I really think Dave Parker's Sweet Tooth stood out the most to me.
Okay.
Sweet Tooth.
It's very reminiscent of the old school slasher flick mixed with like a paranormal monster
Awesome.
Oh.
mix. And it's cool because watching all these directors do all these films, you're learning what they grew up with and what their horror love was, and you can tell that
Yeah.
Dave loved the slasher films.
Right.
So Sweet Tooth is your new slasher buddy and your new tale that you're going to tell your kids to scare the hell out of them on Halloween.
All right.
Sweet
Fantastic.
Tooth.
Yeah.
Sounds scary.
Oh yeah. Just make sure you leave a little piece of candy out for Sweet Tooth at the end of the night.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah.
since it is that time of year, I also saw a spooky film.
Ooh,
What'd you see?
I saw the new Paranormal Activity,
Oh.
Okay.
and
What's this one subtitled?
The Ghost Dimension.
The Ghost Dimension, yeah.
Whoa.
Which I really liked it. The poster is nicely misleading, I feel like, with that subtitle.
Okay.
You have to see it in 3D. Have to
A
see it.
paranormal activity movie
Yep, it's the first one in
in
3D.
third dimension.
Yeah.
No, it's in the Ghost Dimension.
So
Oh.
they do this. They do kind of this really cool technique. They stick to a little bit more of a realistic idea of 3D in a
Okay.
film, which most movies screw some stuff up, which drives me bananas. Because I love 3D. You know this.
You do,
Um,
and I do.
A lot
I
of
know
times in a movie that's in 3D,
Yeah.
somebody will turn on the TV and they're watching a news broadcast or they're watching something on TV, and the thing on the TV is 3D to the audience. It drives me bananas. Happens all the time. In this, not the case.
Really?
Most of the movie, I would say, is probably not really 3D.
Oh,
No, I should say most.
Like The Martian.
So you know how they set up? I haven't seen the Martian.
A lot of it is not 3D.
Well, so
Really?
they
Yeah,
set up
there's
all
a
these.
lot of office scenes.
They set up all these found footage cameras right in the house,
Yeah.
like every other paranormal activity.
and somehow those are in 3D.
Only one of them's in 3D. So the
Okay.
only time the movie's in 3D is when you're looking through the one special camera.
The one
Okay.
special camera that takes you into the Ghost
That
Dimension?
allows you to see the ghost dimension.
3D and the GD.
Yeah, so I thought it was really well done.
How would you compare it to other paranormals, though?
This is the first one to actually get me, to
Oh,
actually
yeah?
scare me.
Oh, good.
So there's that. I like the second one an awful lot. I like the first one just because, of what it did. The fact that they made it for like $15,000 or something. And
Wasn't it even less?
I thought it was 5 for a long time, but then I read recently it was 15.
Wow,
So,
that's still a low number to make
Yeah.
a hit movie with.
yeah, the entire series
Yeah,
is like
absolutely.
the entire series as a whole. All the
Yeah.
budgets together is less than $100 million.
Wow.
So
Jason Blum,
yeah,
smart man.
smart guy. But yeah, I really like that second one just because I felt like all the scares were earned
All
in
right.
that one. This one just really kind of gave people what they were wanting, which is to see the ghosts. So
Oh,
Now I'm really
all right.
curious.
yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, because a lot of the other
I gotta
ones.
see Toby.
Yeah,
Toby.
Yeah, I want to see Toby.
I mean, I don't want to give anything away, but
Toby.
there's a little Toby action.
Does Katie
Oh,
come
man.
back in this one at
I
all?
don't want to say. I don't want to spoil.
Oh,
I don't wanna
that's
spoil
a
any
yes.
surprises.
Oh man,
So
I can just look on the IMDb, see if she's listed.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Not gonna do that. I hate spoilers.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Not
do
gonna happen.
Hey, what's one thing we all haven't seen this week?
haven't seen this week.
Yeah.
Maybe
Neil saw it, but I thought I heard him say he didn't see it.
What was that?
What's that?
The Star Wars trailer.
Yeah.
Did
so-
you see it?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I saw parts of it with
Okay.
the sound off, but
Oh, all right,
That
all
doesn't
right,
count
all
then.
right. So
No, it
you
doesn't
literally
count fully.
saw it,
I just saw it.
didn't
yeah.
hear it. I like that.
I was
And I didn't see it.
multitasking, and I was watching the Eagles game and editing, and
All right.
I had my headphones editing while. So
Eagles game.
yeah, I'm an Eagles fan.
Are you from Philly?
Yes, sir.
I'm from Harrisburg.
Hell yeah.
So
Are you Steelers? Are you Steelers?
No,
or
I'm
Philly?
from the dividing neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not really either. I
Sounds
vote for
like
either.
that.
I root for either team if they make it to the Super Bowl. That's about it.
This thing got away from me again. Go Seahawks. All right.
Oh,
So,
In
yeah,
that case,
they
go
need a little
Eagles.
bit of help this year.
a little bit more help this year. Yeah, Ooh, it's rough. I need a better offensive
Weren't
line.
they in the last 2 Super
But-
Bowls though? You're listening to Sports Talk with Wes and Steve, special guest Neil.
Yeah, so not sports talk. So you mentioned the Star Wars trailer. Just trying to
Yeah.
get us back on track. I try to stay away from trailers in general now, especially if it's a movie that I'm really, really excited about.
Sure.
I don't want to see anything about it. I already know I'm going to see the movie, so I don't need somebody to sell me on it. Right?
And you know that trailer is spoiling stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
I haven't even seen it, and I've already seen spoilers from it, just like in memes and stuff.
I
And
was
I'm like,
crushed.
well, there you
yeah,
go.
I was crushed when the first trailer came out.
Yeah.
The first teaser, and there were images. There were a couple images. One was the dude without the stormtrooper, like in the
Yeah.
costume without that mask on, and the other was the lightsaber, the new lightsaber.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I hadn't seen it in a photo before I saw it on the big
Yeah.
screen. you know?
Yeah.
We'll
Agreed.
leave it up to the internet to capture every moment and tear it apart and
Yep.
spoil
Of
the
course.
entire movie.
Yeah. Now there's a whole boycott Star Wars for no good reason, and
Well, the racists.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
whatever.
Those frickin' guys.
They need to get over it.
They won't.
We love you, internet.
We love you, Internet.
Internet's
But
great.
you racist trolls can shove off.
No, we just love the Viewsters.
We love the Viewsters for sure.
All right.
Where do we start?
So you wanna dive into one of our movies now?
Let's go for it.
Sure.
Feeling good? All right. So the first movie we watched is The Cottage.
The Cottage, which is not about kind of bland but fairly delicious cheese curd. It's actually about a house
A little high, yeah.
out in the countryside, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
In the countryside.
Middle of the woods, in the countryside, yeah.
And for some reason they refer to those as cottages. I never understood it. But here we are. The Cottage.
Yeah.
2008,
2008. Andy Serkis.
starring Andy Serkis. And, I forget who played the brother.
So we got Reese Shearsmith, Steve O'Donnell, and Jennifer Ellison.
Jennifer Ellison. She played Tracy.
Yes. That white shirt. All
She-
she's worth is white shirt.
You know?
Yeah, that character was supposed to be 40 years old, and they were like, nope, you gotta cast someone younger.
Really?
Oh, I'm really happy they did that.
Yeah.
Because she was much more enjoyable the way she was.
Yeah, she did. Well, I think the attitude too, plays better for a somewhat younger person. I didn't think she was
Yeah.
terribly younger than 40, but
No, she's.
She was
20s.
definitely.
I felt like she
30s.
would be in her 20s.
yeah,
Uh,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she seemed like an angry.
Spoiled.
But
like
that attitude wouldn't have played for a
22-year-old
40-year-old. I
No,
don't think.
not at all.
Yeah,
Oh, you can't forget Doug Bradley.
Doug
Doug
Bradley.
Pinhead himself.
Yeah.
And
Not wearing pins, though.
rest in peace, Dave Legeno. Legeno?
I'm very
Legeno? played the farmer.
The farmer guy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We discussed him in the car. We'll get to that later.
Sure.
Once the farmer enters the story.
So the movie starts with car driving through the woods, pulls up to a small cottage, and two brothers get out and they go in. It's cold, and they start a fire. They light a cigarette. They start making tea, that kind of thing. And clearly, these two brothers, they act like brothers. Like they kind of are at each other's throats and.
The way only brothers can
Kind of
be.
sarcastic with each other, and the one brother thinks the other is kind of an idiot, and
Yeah, and one of
he
them
kind of is.
One of them a criminal.
Yeah,
One of them's clearly a criminal, and one of them's clearly out of his depth.
and one of them
Right.
keeps complaining about his sensitivity to temperature,
He's temperature sensitive.
Yeah.
Leave him alone. It's okay.
which I feel like in a way everybody is temperature sensitive, but
So David, I want to say the older brother, but he's the one that's actually the smarter. I don't know if he's actually
Yeah.
older.
yeah, he's
But
clearly running the show.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the actual criminal. And then his younger brother Peter, who's balding and has a
Whale of a wife.
whale of a wife and an aversion to moths.
yeah.
He's afraid of moths.
He sees a moth flying above him, above the table, and he starts freaking out and forces his brother to deal with it.
Aw.
So David sends Peter out to the car to go get some milk, and just before he opens the trunk, David stops him. He comes out and stops him, and he's like, "You're forgetting something." And then he puts on this mask, and then we realize that there's some sort of criminal enterprise. So the milk gets taken out of the car to reveal an unconscious blonde girl.
Which was an awesome shot, by the way.
Yep.
That was great with the reveal of the bag pulling up. Just I noticed that and I was like, that's amazing.
So
I liked it.
she's been chloroformed.
Oh
I
no!
would assume so. Yeah.
They eventually do bring her into the house, and they tie her to a bed upstairs.
Well, before that,
Mm-hmm.
before that, they try and get her upstairs, or they get her upstairs, but then she headbutts.
Oh, that's before they tie her, huh?
Yeah, that's before
oh, that's
they tie
right.
her up.
He's
She
like,
breaks-
hold on one second.
breaks
Yeah.
Peter's nose.
Oof.
So as they're going up there to tie her up, this is why we need our notes, man. That's why we need our notes. We're trying to wing it here.
I got you guys.
You got us. So
Neil's got us.
David tells Peter to just like hold her, watch her, and David goes downstairs. Peter is holding her, and his eyes keep dipping down to her chest region.
Sure.
The chesticles.
The chesticles, and then we get a really cool shot of inside his mask showing his limited field of view. So, like, what he's looking at is what he's looking at. He can't see nothing in the peripheral. And when he looks back up at her face, she's looking right at him, and she headbutts him.
Ooh.
Knocks him on the ground.
Like 3 times headbutts him.
Yeah, gets on top of
Wow.
him, and then continues to headbutt him. And of course, he starts screaming, and David comes up, and
She's terrifying.
yeah, she is. And then they tie her up, and she's vicious. That one.
Quite vicious.
Little spunky. I kind of like her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened
Yeah.
next? Do we go to the strip club?
No,
I feel like we do, but
We meet.
we meet her father.
Well, we don't meet her father. We meet her stepbrother,
her stepbrother,
stepbrother,
Andrew.
Who got a nice haircut.
who got a nice haircut. Everybody that he sees goes, "New haircut," or "I like your haircut," or they all give an eye to his haircut, and we don't know why for a while in the film. And he goes to this locked door, the manager's office in the back of the strip club, and he's basically told to wait outside the door. And so he just stands outside the door. We learn that Tracy, the girl, is the daughter of Arnie, and
Yes.
he is some type of, we assume, some type of underworld crime boss. His
It's gotta
office is
be.
in the back of a strip club, so he's got to be a crime boss, right?
He's got just bags that you would assume to put money in just lying around,
oh
apparently.
boy, he's at the very least a strip club proprietor,
Yeah, maybe.
so he's
Yep,
got
that's it.
cash.
And they're gonna hold her for ransom.
Yes.
So we learn through the film.
Bad idea.
And
She even says it. She's like, don't do it.
Any-
You're making a stupid decision.
yeah, and we learn that the exchange that these two brothers have with each other is that they both own half of a deed to a house.
Oh yes.
And
Is it their deceased mother's house?
Yes,
Oh,
she left each
Yes.
of them half of the deed in the will, basically.
That gets really complicated. She did that on purpose.
So-
Now they're just in a fight.
Yeah. So Peter
So they
and
burn it
his
down.
whale of a wife, they refer to her as a whale of a wife. We're not actually calling her a whale of a wife. They just
They
refer
don't
to
show her,
That-
do they?
They show a photograph.
Oh, they
They
do?
do,
And he's-
yeah, in
yeah.
the wallet.
Yeah.
That's way later.
Okay.
We learned that she and Peter want David out of the house, or they want to own the full deed. So Peter has agreed, essentially, to do this deed
This
with David.
dirty deed to get the
dirty deed to get the deed. All these deeds, and David's in it for the money. I think
That's
the
it.
ransom is $100,000.
Yep. That's it. Doesn't seem like too much for this strip club owner, no?
100,000 pounds, though.
Oh, it's pounds. That's
So we're
right.
talking
It's all
roughly
British.
$150,000.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It varies day by day.
So they David explains to Peter that you have to do all the talking. You're gonna go up there and you're gonna tell her, if you give us a hard time, I'm gonna break your fingers.
Yeah.
And then I want you to read this note. And he makes him read it ahead of time. And he's like, "This is terrible grammar." And he says, "The reason why is because I know Arnie, and so she's seen me in the club. So if I talk, she's gonna recognize my voice,
yeah.
and they'll know who I am. So you have to do all the talking." So of course they go up there, and Peter offers her some tea, and she mouths off to him, and
As she does.
he says, David has a knife, and he says, if
You're
you
not quiet.
David's
David, we're
gonna-
gonna cut you.
David's
Oh,
gonna
right.
cut you. So immediately she knows that someone named David is involved. So
Stupid
he calls
Peter. Yeah.
Arnie, and he reads the note explaining that his son Andrew is going to drive the ransom money to them. He's going to, take the M4 or whatever highway system they have
Yeah,
there,
or whatever.
and take this to them. And so then we see that the door open, and Andrew is given a bag, and Andrew gets the bag and gets in a car and drives off.
Nice.
Yep.
And he drives to the cottage.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Straight there.
Along the way, he gets a phone call, and he answers it, and he tells David that he's got the money, and he's on the way. It's in the seat next to him. But he should get off the phone because his phone's dying.
Yep.
When Andrew gets there and goes into the cottage, we find that he has been followed
Oh, yeah.
by
Chinese.
the Chinese or the Koreans.
By,
Sure.
by Mukli San and Chun Yo-fu.
Okay,
I wrote their names down.
nice.
Mook Lee San and Chun Yo-fu.
Okay,
I feel like there's a pun in there,
maybe.
but what is it?
So
You don't know Chinese.
Andrew brings the bag in, and they're super excited because Peter's going to get the deed to the house,
Oh, yeah.
and the other guys are going to split money.
Yeah.
Split the money. And David says to Andrew, "What does it look like? What's it look like, all that money in there?"
Well, I
And
didn't open it yet.
Yeah, he says, "I didn't open it. I have no idea." So they open it, of course, and inside is tissues, napkins,
Damn
and
it,
tissues.
Andrew.
So Arnie has known about the scheme all along somehow. Now, in the back of the Asian's car
Yeah.
is somebody duct taped, and they make references that they're going to have to get rid of him at some point. So, so whoever is in the backseat has probably informed.
Oh,
Arnie and the
right.
others.
Oh, I put that together now.
Haha.
That makes more sense.
So, Peter insists that he needs to call his wife
Yeah.
and check in, and he's so. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not actually what happens. That happened earlier in the film, and that's inconsequential.
Right.
He needs to call the wife because now that they don't have money in a drop, they need to give Arnie an account number
Right.
in order to get money wired to them. But David doesn't have an account. Peter has this account. So he has to call his wife to get the number.
Silly
His wife
Peter.
owns everything, of
Yeah.
course.
So Peter takes David's phone outside, and he makes a phone call. And of course, subtly behind him is one of the Asian guys with a giant cleaver.
Pretty big
Yeah,
meat
pretty
cleaver.
awesome meat cleaver. there.
Probably could kill him at any second, but I think he's listening in on what's going on, trying to find
Yeah.
out some information and do a little reconnaissance.
Because
And
he's
then-
a bald expletive, deletive, expletive, deletive, expletive.
And then Peter makes the call and everything works out fine, right?
Totally.
Oh,
He does
yeah,
get the
right.
number.
Yeah.
And then he hears a commotion in the house. Do we remember what that was about?
It was her. She got out of the mouth thing and
Oh,
started
right.
screaming.
Okay. So Peter, of course, is startled by this and drops the phone. And of course, he's standing next to a giant puddle of water.
Damn it, Peter.
Uh,
The
so
pun.
so he picks up the phone out of the water, and he goes in to find out what's going on. And when he gives the phone to David to make the call to give the thing, to give the account number, the phone is just pouring water out.
Yeah,
of it. He's
I'd
like,
say easily like a couple of tablespoons just flows right out the battery
Yeah.
port.
So then he goes to Andrew and demands Andrew's phone. Andrew hands it over, but it's dead.
Of course.
Where's the charger?
Oh, he's got a charger
Yeah, where's it at?
in the club.
Hey, plugged
What's
in.
it doing in the club?
Yeah, it's plugged in.
Plugged in at the club.
So David's gonna have to go to town and make a phone call from a phone booth, and they're like, well, you know, what about them recognizing your voice? He's like, hey, the cat's out of the bag at this point.
Yeah.
It was a bad idea.
Oh, something that does happen when she makes, you know, she screams. They all go up to check on her. Why she's screaming?
Mm-hmm.
And Andrew has a stupid mask that he has his whole face shown.
Yeah.
Yes, remember, he's a stepbrother, so she absolutely knows
Immediately
who he is.
recognizes him, and then
Andrew, what are
Peter
you doing here?
forgets his mask.
Yeah.
Together. So now she knows who they, you know, that one's her brother, who the other guy looks like, and the other guy's name is David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at this point, David's like, they're gonna know who it is anyway, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. I just need to go take care of it. So he goes into the village. Now
It's such a classic scene.
Yeah.
he it's like a dark, kind of foggy night in this little English village.
Yeah.
And he goes to make the phone call, and then when he turns around to leave the phone booth,
It's Doug Bradley.
Doug Bradley's there. Pinhead,
The
Pinhead
Doug
is there.
Pinhead,
Bradley.
but no pins.
No
Aw.
pins, and
He
he
did
doesn't
have a
look at all.
dog.
Yeah, but he doesn't look anything like
Oh.
true.
what you would think.
Nothing
you know.
like the Chatterer dog from Hellraiser 4.
Oh,
unfortunately.
God. The Chatterer dog. Oh, that
Chattering dog.
always made me so sad. Chatterer dog.
So the locals know that they're staying out at the old Barnaby cottage.
Well, aren't the locals? They've all come out of their homes in their pajamas, too.
And they're all old.
Just because
They're
some...
all old.
Every
Yeah.
single one of them is over 60.
Just because
for sure.
some stranger walked into a phone booth, everybody comes out to look. I thought that was
Well,
kinda
because this
funny.
is the guy that's staying at the Barnaby cottage, right?
Yeah.
Strangers don't do too well in
And they
this town.
they tell him to lock his doors and don't wander out because strangers don't do well. So David turns to walk away, and as he starts to walk away, they follow him, and he turns back around, and they stop. And then he goes to walk away, and they start following him. He turns around, and they stop. And then he leaves.
They're like weeping angels.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that what they're called
Yes.
on Doctor Who? The weeping angels?
The Weeping Angels, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Those creeps.
They are scary.
the Asians are instructed to get rid of one of the guy in the back seat.
Mm.
So he takes him. One of them takes the guy with the big cleaver, takes him out into the woods.
Uh-oh.
We don't know what happens after that.
Well, we find out later.
Well, yeah, we'll eventually
At this
find out
point,
what
we
happens.
don't
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then David returns back to the cottage,
It's chaos.
and
Door's broken in.
the door's broken in.
Andy's on the floor.
Andy's on the floor. He goes upstairs. No girl. No Peter.
No Peter.
What's happening?
I actually thought we missed something in the movie because it happened so quickly.
Yeah, right? So then Andrew tells the story of
Of the moth.
the moth.
Of the moth in the bathroom.
Yep.
That's right.
The,
They took her into the
Let's say-
bathroom because she had to tinkle.
Yeah.
She had to make a urine.
Yeah, she had to make a urine.
She had to make a urine.
and she says, either you have to untie me
Oh, yeah.
or one of you has to wipe me.
Yikes.
And so they untie her, and that's when he sees the moth and freaks out. And untied, she makes her move and takes them through the door.
Yeah.
You know,
She ends up with David's knife
Yeah.
that he threatened
Left
her with
conveniently
earlier.
on the counter in the kitchen, of
Yeah.
course.
And
Not a great place.
And she abducts Peter and leaves
Poor Peter.
Andrew incapacitated on the floor.
Yep.
Ultimately. So after Andrew tells the story, in comes someone else. Who comes into the room?
Who was it then?
It was the guy from the back seat of the car.
Oh, right.
And
his
he's
intestines are just,
bleeding,
like,
yeah, his like
falling
cut
everywhere.
up and stuff.
Gross.
And he falls down on the ground, and they take the tape off of him. And Andrew recognizes him. That's the
Yeah.
guy who cuts my hair.
Mhm, that's his barber.
And
I get it. The barber ratted, and
they
that's how
go,
they know
yeah,
everything.
you go.
Click.
So
Ding.
His barber ratted. That sucks. Isn't there supposed to be customer barber confidentiality?
yeah, I know, right?
That's what I
So,
thought.
Maybe not in England.
David says, "Did you
Maybe
tell
that's it.
anyone about this? Did you tell this guy?"
Oh, damn
and he's
it.
like, "No." Well, yes, I did. So, then the hairdresser dies, guts all over the floor. He's like, "Is he
Yeah.
dead?" And he's like,
What do you think?
"Yeah,
Oh, grody.
yeah, it's pretty gross." The other Asian leaves the car.
Chun
to
Yo
go-
Fu?
One of them. I don't know which
One of
one's
them.
which.
Pretty sure it's Chun Yo Fu.
Not the one in the jacket.
Not the one in the jacket's the one with the cleaver, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that leaves the car second is the one who's been getting the phone calls that's saying what to do from Arnie, and his ringtone is just like beeping.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes out into the woods to find what happened to his friend, brother,
Mowgli's son.
Japadre, whatever. So David's like, we got to go find my brother,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and get to the bottom of this. So then we find that the girl, Tracy, I keep wanting to call her just the girl. I don't know why.
Tracy.
Tracy
She's
and
the only girl in the entire
That's
movie.
true.
and Peter are walking through the forest, and they come across this gate that says
Farmhouse, no trespassing or something. Or no.
it says I think it says like off limits, but part of it's or something.
I said of.
Keep off is what's supposed
Keep
to say.
off is what's
but
supposed
one
to say.
F was gone.
Yeah.
And she's like, what kind of idiots live here? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
So she forces him to climb over the fence, or the gate, and after he does that, his wallet slips out.
Stupid Peter.
And
Peter.
they continue on to the
Perfectly normal farmhouse where everything's okay.
absolutely
course.
credits roll.
All right.
No, not yet. Nobody's died yet.
Oh.
Except for the barber.
True.
And all the phones, apparently.
Yeah.
So
All the phones are dead in this movie.
they go in, and Tracy goes upstairs, right?
Mm-hmm. Peter stays in the kitchen.
And Peter stays in the kitchen. He ends up going into like a bathroom, right?
Yeah, he goes into the bathroom
Oh.
full of moths.
Yeah.
He goes in the bathroom, turns the light on, and it is floor-to-ceiling moths.
Moths.
Everywhere.
Swarming with moths.
If you remember, Peter does not like malls very much.
Yeah.
So this did not work out too well for him.
And he's been,
No.
and at this point, he's been beaten up quite a bit by Tracy. He's had his jaw dislocated and relocated.
Oh, yeah.
So he's
Oh,
pretty. So he's pretty
that's
hurt.
right.
He has this traumatic moth experience. Busts out of there, shuts the door, hurting, tired. He slowly comes along the wall to where the kitchen and the freezer are, and he pops the freezer doors open, and he reaches in and gets some peas, and he puts the peas on his face.
Oh, yeah.
And
to
then he
ice his
sees something on the
many
floor.
injuries.
What does he see on the floor?
Trap door.
A trap door, and he hears something down there, and he's not sure what that is, but it doesn't sound good. And there's a thump,
And then he spills all his
and he
peas.
starts spilling the peas out of the bag all over the floor. Meanwhile, Tracy's upstairs, and she finds a bedroom and a suitcase.
Yeah.
Oh.
And when she opens that suitcase, did you notice what was on the suitcase?
It was written. Something was written, but I couldn't read it fast enough.
You're never gonna leave me.
Oh, you're
Oh.
never gonna- that was what it said. Okay, I got never gonna, and I was like, what does it say?
That was written on the suitcase?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
carved.
It was
into
carved. It was scratched into the red covering of the suitcase.
Yikes.
You're never gonna leave me. And she smells something really strange in there. And just as she's going to open a closet door or some door
Yeah,
that's
this is a
adjacent.
closet, I think. Yeah.
She hears a scream from downstairs, and so she goes downstairs, and she sees the peas are all over the floor, and she's like, why are the peas?
Why are the peas on the floor?
And he's like, there's something down there, blah blah blah. She goes to the trap door.
What could be? What is her exact line? Was brilliant. It was,
We're like out in the middle of nowhere.
we're in the middle of nowhere. We're in a creepy house. What could be in the trap door in the kitchen?
So she's looking at him, and a machete
Yeah.
just comes through her body.
Yeah, pretty.
It's kind of through the side abdomen area.
I would say that sounds that's
Probably,
accurate.
maybe-
Her right side, I would say.
Yeah, maybe not a mortal wound if tended to, but
Definitely not something you want to acquire
No.
while out in the countryside anywhere in Europe.
yeah. So she falls over, seemingly dead.
Well, no, first, before she gets stabbed,
Yeah.
she's looking at Peter and she says, "Why is the freezer full of hands?"
Oh, that's right.
And Peter looks and there are a bunch of severed
And they're like,
hands in
"Maybe
the
we should
freezer.
get out of here."
And then
And
she
that's when she
gets
gets
stabbed
stabbed.
through
That's
the
right.
back.
This is why we need her
Poor
notes.
Tracy. My notes are there.
Yeah, your notes. Yeah, so that's a good point.
She gets stabbed after noticing a freezer full of hands, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Run. You run from a house like that.
No, she got stabbed though.
Yeah,
It was too late.
it was. Sad but true.
So Peter runs upstairs.
Foolish.
Yeah, why do they always run up? Z
I don't know.
axis. Z axis. So Peter goes upstairs and ends up jumping out the bedroom window. Kind of falls on his back
Yeah.
out the bedroom window, and the killer who we saw stab Tracy, we now see
he
is
rises
a
up from the
super
trapdoor.
tall, disfigured in the face.
Like his face made Leatherface look. I'm not going to compare it to a real person because that would
Okay.
just be insulting.
Think hills have eyes. kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like his face was way gnarlier
We'll
than Leatherface.
and we'll learn later in the film how he got that face.
Yeah,
So Peter falls out the window, and the guy's hanging out the window, the farmer, and he's like, "Rawr."
yeah.
And then
Waving his
who
knife.
comes out the door?
Tracy,
Tracy.
she's
still
alive.
and she's
still
like,
hot.
Bitchy as ever.
"Yeah, you
Oh,
gotta,
yeah.
you gotta help me
Hot and
escape.
bitchy
You
as
gotta
ever."
help me. You gotta help me." And she guilts him. Gives him the little eyes and guilts him into trying to help her hobble out. And of course, the farmer comes out, and what does Peter do?
He runs.
Yeah, he leaves
like
her.
a sissy.
Yeah.
And so she bitches at him.
What are you gonna do? You gonna kill me? Come on, just kill me already.
Yeah,
You
Tracy.
pussy.
Yeah, what is it? She gets he gets on top of her. She's on her back. The farmer's over her with the machete.
With the machete.
He raises it up.
And then
Shovel.
Kong.
Shovel to the face.
Yeah.
There's
Shovel
been
to
a
the face.
lot of shovel action tonight.
Yeah. We'll
So,
get to the other
Peter,
shovel
yeah.
later.
Yeah.
So Peter returns, we find out, and has knocked out the farmer with the shovel.
Yay. Yay, Peter.
And
You did
Tracy's
it.
like, "You gotta kill him. You gotta kill him." He's like, "Kill him with what?" And she's like, "The machete. And what do I do?" And like, she says something like, "Stab him in the heart, or no, stab him in the face.
Stab him in the face.
Stab him in the face."
Gotta. Stab him in the head.
So they argue, and of course, the farmer comes to,
Oh, boy.
grabs the shovel,
Oh, jeez.
and takes off about half of Peter's foot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just right off.
The front half.
Peter is like, obviously screaming and crying especially because he's a big baby. But obviously that's a pretty horrific wound.
Yeah, that's pretty painful.
That would be
I assume.
god-awful.
Just slightly painful.
So he's laying on the ground now because half of his foot's gone, and the farmer gets up with a shovel and he's about to kill Peter, and Tracy starts mocking the farmer and is like, "Just hurry up and kill him."
Yeah.
And Peter gives the farmer one of the best looks I've ever seen anybody give a killer in a horror film.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, yeah, she's fucking annoying.
Yeah.
What can you do? So he turns around as she's gabbing at him
Yeah.
and shoves the shovel into her mouth.
Yep.
Goes
Right.
about halfway through her head.
Ugh.
And she, as she starts to fall back, he goes with her and he pushes the shovel down as hard as he can, and the top part of her head just comes off. It's awesome and disgusting
It was
all at the
so
same
brutal.
So brutal.
time. If you're a fan of horror films and gore, it's a great moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so happy.
Because a lot of times when you see something like that in a horror film, usually like they do this slow, like the top of the head slowly slides off the
Yeah.
blade. They did that in Wrong Turn and some other things. Whereas this was kind of cool because it was done with such ferocity and such force that the top of the head just pops off. I mean, it's just it is horrific.
It was awesome.
And then they even show like her like exposed like basically neck
Yeah.
Yeah.
hole with like the bottom of her jaw still there.
Yeah. So the farmer takes Peter and hangs him by a meat hook by his jacket
Yeah.
in a shed. So Andrew and David, this actually might be where they discover the hairdresser. We might be getting the order just a little bit out
The
of
hairdresser?
whack,
No, this is where they discovered the Chinese guy.
well, I'm not sure if they actually. Now that I'm thinking back on it, they may have discovered the hairdresser. Like that scene might be after Tracy's death. Not 100% sure. And then they go into the woods, maybe. But it's okay.
No, I think the hairdresser comes right... Because the hairdresser scene comes right as they go into the house, or David goes into the house.
When we were
and Andrew's
saying,
on the floor
when we were
and all
talking
that.
about it, it felt right, but now it feels off to me. But either way, it doesn't really matter
No.
in for this purpose. But so they head out into the woods. David and Andrew, not the hairdresser. Hairdresser's dead.
Sure. Hairdresser is dead.
And as they're walking through the woods, Andrew seems pretty oblivious, but David sees one of the henchmen, one of the Asian henchmen, kind of strung up by his arms, and dead. And then they find the giant cleaver as well, and it's just dripping blood.
Very red blood.
So one has had his throat slit, and the other's
Yes.
gone, but most likely dead.
Yeah, what happened to him?
Well, we get a hint.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, the
jacket.
thing,
The jacket
yeah.
will come back. So they find the house, the farmhouse. And they go over the gate and they find the wallet.
Oh boy.
So he knows this is the way they came.
How do you know Peter was here? Found his wallet with a picture of a whale of his wife.
As well, I think he says the whale is his wife and the other is his child, or something like that, or his child and his whale of a wife, or something to that effect. So they head over to the house, and did you guys catch that you could actually see Peter hanging and swaying?
I
Oh
thought
yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah, that
I
was
was
messed up.
It was like something's in the background. Well, whatever.
But
No
both
one's
the
gonna
guys
see
miss it, right?
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
At first, I thought it was the farmer just like watching them from the doorway,
That was my opinion too. I thought it was that.
but he just kept not coming out to kill them. So it was like, well, that can't be the farmer.
Now Andrew hurts himself before they get to the farmhouse.
No, he ends up in a.
Oh, on the way to the farmhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, on the way.
before they get there, they're in the field, and he's like, "Shouldn't we really watch where we're going?"
Yes,
Oh, yeah, the bear
that's
trap.
right.
And he says, "Don't farmers have traps?" And David's like, "Traps."
Snap.
And then, of course,
Ooh.
it snaps, and so David tries to get him out of the trap, and of course, lets go too early,
And it
and the trap snaps
snaps.
back on his leg again.
Again.
So Andrew's wounded by the time they get to the farmhouse. And they go into the house. I believe Andrew stays outside at first, and David goes in kind of through, not a basement area necessarily, but something like kind of garagey.
Is this when he
like a little shed
finds?
thing.
And he finds the photos. He finds all the photos in there first.
Yeah.
And then Andrew comes into there and meets up with him. And that's
No,
what we...
before that, though, Andrew well, they both at the same time find Tracy. Andrew finds her head.
Finds her outside.
And then
Andrew finds her body.
David finds the body.
David finds the head.
Oh, David finds the head. Andrew
Yeah.
finds the body.
Yeah.
Gross.
And they're like, I found Tracy. I did too.
Yeah. But before that, he's investigating. Before he finds the head, he finds the scrapbook that has all of the newspaper articles about the
Okay.
farm and the farm incident where the young man was injured in a horrific farm incident, and all these photos of the family and stuff with one person scratched out, the tallest person in the group
Yeah.
is scratched out.
Oh no.
Then he finds the head, Andrew comes in, and he turns on a light. And when the lights turn on, they realize they're in a room full of heads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? And
Delicious
did they find the jacket already at this point? They must have found the jacket.
I don't know.
Well, as they're walking over to the thing of heads, Andrew's like, "I'm cold. Oh, look, a jacket."
A jacket. And then we see it's the machete guy's jacket. Or the cleaver guy's jacket.
Yeah.
So they turn the lights on, they see all the heads, and he's like, one of them just moved. And he's like, which one? He's like, the ugly one. And they're all like just as nasty.
They're all ugly.
Heads. And then, of course, we see one move, and it's the farmer.
No.
And he gets up off the ground and chases them out. He takes a pickaxe,
Straight to the leg.
that's
of
right.
swings it at David, it goes through his leg, and pins him into the ground.
No.
Oh, man.
Andrew hobbles off. He goes down a hill, and he ends up in the horse stables, and he's hiding. The farmer goes and grabs some type of, like, not a machete, but some type of big, almost like a tall grass clearing thing. Not a scythe per se, because it's like a hand.
Yeah.
Something you can hold in one hand, but it's something like you might get really tall grass.
So just
or
like a
weeds away.
sickle then.
Kind of like a sickle, but
sickle is the handheld
It's in the
version.
middle of a sickle and a machete.
yeah, it was
Okay.
thick. It was not. It wasn't sickle shaped.
Oh.
So, but it was like that. So something you might hack away at something with.
Yeah.
I can't picture it right now.
So he grabs that out of the house and then goes out and into the stables. And Andrew thinks that he's okay, and then a phone rings,
Uh-oh.
and it does. Da, 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 da. Do you actually know what the ring was? The beeping?
Mm-mm.
It was the SOS.
Was it really?
Yeah. And of course he turns around. He's got this phone going off, and he answers it, and it's his dad. And he's like, "You got to help us. There's this crazy guy. We're at the farm. Blah blah blah." And then the crazy guy comes out and takes that thing right up through the crotch region.
Oh.
Yes. Oh.
And then after we see this a little bit later, but we do see that after Andrew is dead on the ground, he cuts the clothes off Andrew and starts digging around, cuts through his insides.
Through the back.
Ew.
Yep, and then he rips the spine out with the
All of
head
it.
still attached.
So nasty.
All of it. What a shot that was. All silhouetted and everything. It was so
And then
gruesome.
he proceeds to just drag it around the
Whoa.
field and the house and stuff.
Oh, man.
Stop it.
The face gets all dirty by the time it shows up.
Ew.
So
Poor
Peter
Andrew.
wakes up in the on the hook,
Yeah.
and he and David they hear each other, and maybe they see each other even at that point. And Peter pulls himself off the hook, falls down on the ground, and then he starts crawling over to David to help David get the pickaxe out of his leg.
Yeah.
And he's like, "This is taking forever," because it does take forever trying to crawl like that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine that open foot wound just dragging on
Mm.
the dirt and the
gross.
rocks?
He did wrap it up first, though. He found the shirt.
Oh, that's
and
right. He does wrap
Okay.
it up.
He
You're
wrapped it
right.
up.
You're right.
But still, that's
It's a
not
step
gonna
in the
do
right
much.
It's not going to feel good.
No.
Doesn't David find Peter's severed foot piece? when
Yes,
and
he
He
Andrew
does
used
when
to
they
walk
first
around?
get there, and there's a great moment where he tips the foot out,
Yeah.
and then he puts it back into the shoe,
Yeah.
and then he throws the shoe away.
So gnarly.
So he helps him pull the pickaxe out, and this wound is bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's gross. It's a big pickaxe is thick, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
a big hole in his leg,
Yeah. That's
and
a
they
lot
both
of
realize
metal.
they're not going anywhere, and they just kind of lay back and sort
Stare
of
at the stars.
await death. They comment on how clear of a night it is.
Yeah.
Aw.
And David offers the deed to him just to give it outright
Yeah.
to him, and they sort of make up for their lifetime of bickering.
Yeah. That's
Mom
what
would
it
be
takes.
so proud.
But then
Yeah.
David's like, "Fuck this," and sits up, and he's like,
We're not dying
"Yeah,
here.
we're not dying here, not without a fight." So they gather themselves. They get back into the farmhouse to look for a phone. And in through the window comes something.
The dirty head and spine.
The dirty head and spine show up.
Of Andrew.
Yeah.
I hope it's his. I hope there wasn't somebody else's dirty head and spine that's been removed.
Yeah.
Just Andrew's.
The trap door's open, and there's noises coming from down there as well.
Yeah, that was bizarre.
And then the farmer shows up, and he is about to kill Peter. He's barreling in on Peter. He's got a knife, and they're sort of struggling. And David finds an album.
Yeah, the photo album.
The photo album of who I believe is the farmer and his wife on their wedding day.
That's what I would assume. So yeah.
And he holds that hostage and starts to rip down. And he's like, if you
move another move another muscle, I tear this apart.
Yeah, and he's like, you need to get down into the trapdoor, and he tells Peter to start pushing the kitchenette cabinet over that direction. And of course, he struggles with it because he's a weakling. He moves it a bit.
Poor Peter.
And then, so they're gonna put the guy in the trapdoor, close it, and put the cabinet on it.
Yeah.
David takes it too far, and he actually rips down too far into the... He basically rips the whole, all the way down almost.
Oh, no.
Almost, yeah.
And that's when the farmer picks up a pickaxe that he has again.
Oh, jeez.
And puts it right in David's
right
chest.
into the heart.
Yeah.
Right through the heart. Oh, God.
And David falls down and dies.
Oh, no.
But in the process, because the farmer tries to grab the picture, and he fully rips it
Yes.
at that point.
Oh, no.
So the farmer turns to the table, distracted, to try and put the picture back together.
Yeah.
And Peter is distraught over his brother, and he grabs a nearby rope and puts it around the farmer's neck and starts strangling him.
Okay.
The farmer knocks him down. He falls into the trapdoor area. And the trapdoor closes.
Yeah.
And he continues to pull his weight down on the rope, bringing the farmer down and choking him, but also bringing the farmer reaches out and grabs the cabinet, and the cabinet falls down as well.
Yeah.
Right on top of the farmer.
And Peter continues strangling him until he's dead.
Dead.
Then the weight of the farmer
maybe dead. You know how these movies go.
Yeah. So I like to believe the farmer's dead.
Until the sequel.
Well, I'll tell you why in a minute. But
Okay.
The farmer's weight, as well as the kitchen cabinet on the trapdoor, means that Peter can't get out.
Right, because he's
And
a
so-
weakling.
Yeah.
He's got a little lighter, and he's trying to make his way down the trapdoor to see what's down at the other end. Maybe there's an exit.
Oh.
And the light keeps going out, and he ends up in a room, and he's hearing something, and he lights the lighter, and there are a whole bunch of women. I don't know if I remember seeing any men, girls, and
It was
whatnot.
so
I
fast.
think it
And
was
they
all
were
women.
I believe, eating body parts.
Ew.
And they
They look like
descend
cannibalistic
on
zombies.
Peter with a vengeance, and the
No.
movie ends.
That's it.
Now, I don't think
The
the farmer
Cottage.
comes back to life, because that would give the idea that there could have been hope for Peter, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's really only kind of funny, and
If he dies too.
yeah.
But it's a horror
If there's no
movie,
hope.
and if they create a sequel, the farmer can
Sure.
easily come back because he's a mutated freak. And farmer, if you're out there, please don't kill me.
Oh, I didn't know this. There was something after the credits we missed.
Oh,
Oh,
what?
no.
Yeah, would you like to know what it was?
Yes,
Sure.
absolutely. Who's still alive?
Interesting.
Who is still alive?
You were correct, sir.
The farmer's still
The
alive.
farmer's still alive.
He's the killer. He never dies.
After the credits, Arnie and his right-hand men are seen arriving at the farm. As
Oh,
they step
no.
up to the front door, the farmer suddenly rushes out at them with the pickaxe raised above his head. As he swings it at them with it, the image freezes and the screen fades to black.
Yes.
They don't even open fire?
Straight up 80s ending.
Neil
I
is,
love it.
Neil is correct.
Yikes.
So the farmer's still around. There could totally be a Cottage too.
Sure.
I'm actually down for a Cottage too because I loved how the movie portrayed itself as a heist kidnapping kind of film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's in a horror world.
Yeah.
And it becomes a horror movie
Yeah.
straight up.
You know, it's a completely different kind of film, but it reminds me thematically in that way of The Birds. The first almost half of The Birds is like a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
It's like there's a meet cute, and there's like sort of a misconception about who the birds are for, and then she decides she's going to play this prank on this guy. She goes to leave the birds, and then they kind of fall in love, and she meets his old ex, and so there's sort of like this sort of thing before the birds show
Yeah.
up, where it's like a completely different kind of film, and then it turns on you. And this is kind of the same way, where you have this sort of like heist, kidnapping, ransom film that's very funny.
Yeah.
And I think in the description they refer to the brothers as bumbling, and you really pick up on that.
Absolutely.
And then all of a sudden, it just turns on you, and there's like this weird monster guy in it.
As soon as he gets to that village, he goes into the village, and the old people warn him.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay.
This is that Friday the 13th moment with the crazy guy.
It's like, don't go to that house.
Yeah.
You think of You think of Cabin in the Woods. You think of Cabin Fever, even, and they're like, don't go up there. Just don't do it.
Well, like I said, it reminds me a lot of the first two Friday the 13th movies, I think, where they have, I can't remember his name, Crazy Ray, no, not Crazy Ray.
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there's one of those in every Friday the 13th.
But there's a specific guy who shows up and warns the campers about the place.
Yeah.
And he shows up in the second one, and he dies in the second one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But that character, that type of
there's
character
always
is played
This
throughout.
ominous crazy person.
The harbinger.
Always a crazy person who's telling these kids not to do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's not crazy. Sometimes he's just the town drunk.
Yes, they're the town drunk.
So what did you guys think of this movie? I had seen this movie before, and I actually had already liked it, which is why I put it in the book in the first place. What did you guys think? Neil, why don't you go first?
Well, I have never saw it, and I actually did not do any research on it beforehand. I love going into movies completely blind and just being like, okay, cool, whatever it is. I freaking loved it. I love some of that, like, just straight up. I don't want to call it campy, but it is kind of campy horror.
Sure.
Over the top deaths and a very, very disgruntled killer is always a lot of fun. But the actual way that the movie was presented and the story was told through these two separate types of stories, and then through just the overall filmmaking itself, I really appreciated it. I really enjoyed everything that the director did and the editor did, and the music. The music stood out to me too. It was very almost Danny Elfman-like.
It's very Danny Elfman-like. You're absolutely right.
I was really hoping it was going to be Danny Elfman in the credits, but it wasn't. It was somebody else, but still, it was phenomenal, and it was fantastical and different for any type of horror world you would ever imagine. Yeah. So I dug it. I dug it like crazy.
What did you think, Steve?
I agree with a lot of what he said. Unfortunately, Steve's coffee countdown was not on my side for this movie. Oh. We'll go into that later. But everything about it was perfectly enjoyable. My only other gripe is that the cover photo, so to speak. You can't really say cover box anymore. Well, I guess you can. The cover box photo.
The box art?
Yeah, the box art. Mm-hmm. It's got the farmer's face right on it.
Sure.
So it's like I knew the whole time, like, oh, clearly this mangled maniac is going to show up and start messing with stuff any minute now.
Right. I did not see that.
So it was sort of like if I hadn't seen that, I might not have... The farmer would have been so much more of a surprise. Mm-hmm. And it was still great all the way through. I love Tracy.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. But yeah, it's like I wish the cover box had been more vague, so that then when the farmer showed up, it was a real nice curveball of like, whoa, this is a slasher movie, and I didn't even know it. That is my wish. And then unfortunately, I mean, we had a big talk before the movie started about how I needed coffee and, well, I'll try the iced tea, and I was dozing off. As soon as that car was driving down the road in the night, I would notice myself dozing off. And it's not the movie's fault. It's my own fault. Yeah. My caffeine quotient was low.
What were you thinking?
I think that seat makes me drowsy too, because that seat sinks so far.
Sorry.
That particular
one.
Comfy, it's
man.
just...
It's not. Really
it's not. Couch. Yeah, you don't have to apologize for it. It's just a factor in the keeping me awake battle.
Well, we should just have you standing for every
maybe. Yeah, I need to get just like a little hand truck.
Yeah,
and I'll just stand on that, and then we can just kind of lean it back just a little, balance it on something, and that way I'm pretty much standing for the movie.
I want to talk about somebody in the film that
Tracy.
No, not Tracy, not Jennifer Aniston. The only other movie I've seen her in is Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, yeah?
And I don't really remember her in it that much. Right. She was like the friend.
Yeah. Very minor.
I want to talk about Andy Serkis.
Sure.
Andy Serkis is awesome.
He was really fantastic in this film.
He does great work.
I'm not... It's funny, he does good work, but I'm not a fan of a lot of the things that he's in.
Oh, really?
It's not him. Yeah, I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy. I'm not a King Kong... He always does this motion capture stuff, right?
What about like Burke and Hare, and even in Planet of the Apes?
Planet of the Apes.
But yeah, he's good in Planet of the Apes. But again, it's like it's not really. It's almost hard to think oh, that's Andy Serkis because it's you feel like it's an animal, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to
motion
judge.
capture.
I mean, obviously, as an actor, it's an incredible performance to make people believe that you're an animal. But at the same time, I'm also like, I want to see the guy act.
Yeah.
In this, you actually get to see the guy act. And he's always, you always see this stuff with him being kind of like, essentially goofy. Being an animal is kind of goofy. Even in Avengers, Age of Ultron, he's got a really small part in that.
Yeah.
And he's a little more badass in that, but...
Fingers crossed he comes back.
He'll come back in Black Panther for sure.
I can't wait.
He'll need a robo arm.
Oh, yeah.
But he's kind of funny in that as well, and he's not that strong. He's kind of a weak character because he gets his ass handed to him immediately.
By Ultron.
But the point is, well, the twins show up. Whatever.
That's the point.
The Avengers were going to show up. He's going to get his ass handed to him. No matter
Yeah,
what.
but before that, Ultron slices his arm off.
Okay.
So you're going to get your butt handed to you after a robot slices your arm off.
My point is that he's not seen as a strong character. In the
Okay.
film, right? In this, he's a really strong character.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of the straight man in this film.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is an idiot. He's like the smartest. He's like the one guy who's a criminal. He's kind of uneducated and stuff. But as evidenced by his poorly written note, that instructions.
He's not book smart.
Yeah,
But he's very street smart.
but he's also
Maybe even jail smart.
he's also probably the smartest person in the film.
Yep.
Right.
Right. So, I thought his performance in this was
Absolutely.
standout.
Oh, great. Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Agreed.
I actually, it's funny because earlier this week, me and my buddy had a conversation about who should play the next Freddy Krueger. Both of us said Andy Serkis.
Whoa.
That's an interesting idea.
Yes. And
Wow.
we think Andy Serkis would totally be able to pull off that kind of character.
You're a horror guy.
No, that's not my thing.
Yeah. Let me tell you, like, I actually did. I kind of there was things that I liked about the last remake of the film.
Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah,
you talking?
yeah. And there's one thing I feel like they could have done that to me would have salvaged the film.
What is that?
And I would love to see this in a future Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, I'll take
So,
notes.
new line if you're listening.
Hire me to do it.
I really would have loved it if Fred Krueger didn't do anything to the children.
Oh,
If
yeah.
he was killed for doing something that he didn't do.
Really?
And that's why he was getting vengeance on them. I didn't do anything to your kids. I'm going to do something now.
In that case, they were trying to stick with the original where he was
did.
accused of it and, like...
But how much of a mind trip would that have been? And then, to me, it would have been like, yeah, you did so many things different.
He's out for revenge on purpose.
Yeah.
I can tell you my gripe with that movie and why I hated it.
Sure.
Let's hear it.
They didn't know which Freddy to go with.
Sure.
When you look at the Nightmare on Elm Street series...
Scary or the funny.
You have two different Freddys. Yeah,
Yeah.
you have your intense and scary Freddy, and you have your goofy, kind of crazy Freddy, like when he kills someone in a video game.
And that's when he got
It's
popular.
the same. And that's when it got popular. But
Yeah.
when you're dealing with one film, one character, you can't teeter back and forth and be on that edge so often
Sure.
that you don't know which one he's going to be. And I would have gone if either way would have been great.
Sure.
And it would have given a whole different feel to the movie. But you got to pick that specific type of Freddy.
Sure. I can see that. Again, I think even with the way he was, it would have
heck was
actually
that?
felt a little bit almost more justified if
Yeah, if he wasn't...
if he hadn't actually done it.
That's
then like
very
the quips
interesting.
and stuff would have felt all the more like these people really created this monster.
Yeah.
You know?
That's very interesting, and that would add a whole nother dynamic to his character,
People
which
wouldn't
wouldn't
see
be
it
a
coming.
bad thing. Yeah, it's not a bad thing at all. I think that would actually make it very fascinating.
New line, give us a call.
Yeah.
We're ready. This
We
is your
got
team.
this.
It's your dream team right here.
right.
We're ready to go.
We'll make the best Nightmare on Elm Street remake you'll ever see.
Yeah, we will.
Step
Striped
one,
shirts
cast
and
Johnny
all.
Depp.
No.
Oh.
Can he be eaten by a bed?
He sure.
He can do anything.
Yes.
We're gonna let
He
him
can
eat
definitely be eaten by a bed again.
that. Okay,
I
so
would love it.
all right, so I would like to talk about We Are Indie Horror.
We are indie horror.
Tell me, where did this come from? Why?
Why?
What's going on?
Well, it started last October, actually, almost to the day. I had a screening of my latest short film, which is called A Shadow Fell, at the El Cid. And through that night, I saw so many incredible short films. They were original stories. They were very well done, very scary, and they were all independent.
Yeah.
It kind of flipped the switch in me that there's so much good horror out there, and people don't know it because it's not getting promoted properly.
Sure.
So the co-producer on A Shadow Fell, who is also my roommate, Brian Sapir, we came together and kind of had the idea at the same time. We were discussing the other films, and we're like, they're so good, why does nobody talk about them? And through that kind of stemmed the idea of We Are Indie Horror. And throughout November and December, we kind of started planning it and figuring out if this is actually something we should do or shouldn't do. Come December, I was invited to the guy who hosts, or is one of the hosts of the El Cid Night, invited me to his Scary Christmas party, which we're doing again this year.
Christmas
Yeah, it's awesome. It's
Nice.
so much fun. And I told him about We Are Indie Horror about a week or so prior to that. At the party, he comes up and goes, "Hey, has Neil told you about We Are Indie Horror?" To every single person I'm talking about.
Nice.
And like at this point, it still wasn't even like a solid idea.
Yeah.
Well, by the end of that night, it became a
Yeah,
solid idea.
Right.
Sure.
We ended up having 100 followers off of our launch straight because of that party.
Wow, that's great.
It became insane. So we launched in January as just like a little Facebook thing where we're going to take a look at some of these independent filmmakers, kind of go deeper into them and promote their stuff. And just over time, it has evolved over the past, what are we, in October? So 10 months now.
Yeah.
It's evolved into this whole big website where we feature, each week we will feature a new fear maker is what we call them, because now we span beyond films.
Sure.
We don't just, horror is more than just films now. Horror is music, it's haunts, it's books, comic books, graphic novels. And we find these artists and we feature them for a whole week, kind of show off their stuff, write a really nice article on them. And in the process, we also cover independent horror news.
Yeah.
So we'll catch the newest trailers. We've been going to events and doing red carpets, meeting independent horror filmmakers.
You guys had a Screamfest presence
Yes,
too, right?
we actually got onto the red carpet for the Tales of Halloween opening.
Wow.
And that was a lot of fun. We talked to all those filmmakers. We talked to Darren Lynn Bousman. We actually talked to Jason Blum, who was there.
Wow.
And
That's
we
good.
talked to them about independent horror. We don't ask just the standard questions, where'd the idea for this movie come from?
Right.
We don't care. Well, we do, but at the same time, it's not what we're out
That's not what
for.
drives you.
We want to talk about independent horror and why is it so ignored? At the same time, why is it so good?
Sure.
Everybody has very different answers, and it's really interesting. And we've come across over the course of this year, my thought on horror has changed completely.
Yeah. How so?
Well, it started out, if you were to ask me a year ago, what's the state of horror today? I'd be like, it's nothing but remakes and sequels, and there's nothing original out there.
Yeah.
You ask me today, you just have to find it.
Right.
It's out there. It really is. And with all these new ways of finding movies, like VODs and any like YouTube and Hulu and Netflix, just look a little bit harder than what
Yeah.
they're recommending, and you'll find it. And
Right.
you'll find some incredible films. And over the course of this year, I've seen so many incredible, talented artists who are just not being talked about. And it's really unfortunate, because then you go to the movies and you see another sequel or you see another remake, and you're like, why can't you do something original?
Sure.
Doesn't make any sense.
Not that there's
No, nothing wrong
there's
with
a place
those.
for remakes and reboots.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Like Town That Dreaded Sundown is a
Yeah.
great example of how you do a remake.
We talked about that in
Yeah,
one of our
two episodes
podcasts
ago.
ago.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Love
so
that
it's
movie.
it's very much where you're telling the same story, but you're doing it differently.
Right.
There's too many retellings of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Sure. We've seen that story 3 or 4 times now, and
Sure.
what else can you do with it? You can't make it anything new
Yeah.
and original. I hear they're trying to make another Cabin Fever with the exact same script from the original.
Oh, wow.
Right.
How does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Don't do that. Do something original.
Sure.
You have so many incredible stories out there to tell, and nobody's doing it. So all We Are Indie Horror is, it comes from a passion of a hardcore horror fan wanting to see more and original scary things.
So you talked a little bit about that you've seen a bunch of what I guess what you probably consider up and coming artists, right?
Absolutely.
What are some over the last year, since that's sort of been your horror renaissance? It sounds
Yeah.
like. What are some? Nick, can you name a couple of films that you just you
Oh.
think people need to know about?
Absolutely. One, I got to mention Jean Blaylock of Sarah Films. Check out anything of Sarah Films. Visions. They actually have Betwixt Killer coming out soon and Among the Shadows coming out soon.
Okay.
Check those out. Those are awesome films. Then you have Hamish Downey, who is a producer on a Silent Hill fan film, which is amazing. And then he did this other very existential piece called Pieces of Eight, which was beyond incredible. Who else do we have? Like, and if you want to span beyond films, we have Madison Rhodes, who is now trying to get her escape game off the ground, which is called Crossroads Escape Game, and it basically is putting you and 5 of your friends into a horror movie. Each one has a very particular character, and you go into a room and you have to solve all these puzzles.
A physical room.
A physical room.
Not a video game, not a board game.
A physical room, and you're locked into a physical room where you have to solve the puzzles. Here's the thing, though. If you find a key, that necessarily is not the key for your room. It could be a key for someone else's.
That's great.
The trick is, too, you can die in this, too.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Yeah, it's a whole game thing.
That's great.
And then just everybody else, just everyone that we talk to. If you go to our website and we have video upon video upon video. There's a new anthology film that just came out called Into the Dark by these 2 guys in Tennessee. And it's like, the horror's all over the place.
Sure.
It's all over the world, all over the U.S. Absolutely check out Into the Dark. It's fun throwback to nice, like, 80s, 70s horror. It's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what's coming up that you're really excited about?
Oh, man. So we're coming out of the Halloween season, so all the Halloween movies are kind of done.
Sure.
We have at AFI Fest in the beginning of November is screening this independent Turkish film called Baskin, which we caught wind of a couple months ago, and we've been nothing but excited to see it. Played at Toronto, and they loved it in Toronto.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like The Raid goes through hell, and it's just...
But with no kung fu.
No kung fu.
Right.
But you have demons and seances.
Sure.
And why not? That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm also looking forward to the Christmas season this year. We have 4 different Krampus movies coming out.
Right.
4 of them.
4 Krampus movies.
I knew of one.
Yeah, right. You have Krampus by Michael Daughtry, who did Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I'm super excited about is Spooky Dan's Sleigh Bells.
Yeah.
You have Barry Bostwick is in it, and if you don't know who Barry Bostwick is, look him up right now, because he is Rocky Horror Picture Show. You're an asshole, Brad Major's asshole. Oh my god, best
He's
part
in
of
Tales of
Rocky.
Halloween.
He's also in Tales of Halloween. I'm not going to spoil who his character is in Tales of Halloween because it's too awesome. But
right.
he plays Santa in Sleigh Bells.
Nice.
And he plays a biker Santa Claus.
Nice.
Yeah, and also Christina Cleave is in Sleigh Bells, and she's from Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Yeah.
She was also in Tales of Halloween. She's a phenomenal fear maker as well. I saw one of her short films very recently.
Oh, cool.
Brutal. Super brutal. Had DDP in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Diamond Dallas Page.
Diamond Dallas Page. Didn't say a word, but it was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, so she's definitely someone to look forward to, and she's all about this new women's movement in film, and especially in the horror genre, showing that women can be just as gross and disturbing as any man.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, that's awesome. So you guys have a Facebook page, We Are Indie Horror.
Facebook.com/We Are Indie Horror. We have our website, weareindiehorror.com, where we have, if you want, we have free registration to sign up. You can talk within our forums. You can post if you need a job, or post if you are looking for somebody to work on something. It's all in our forums. You can find that there. We also are on the Instagram at We Are Indie Horror, and we're also on the Twitter thing at We Are Horror, because apparently We Are Indie Horror is too long. So We Are Horror.
Twitter.
Like you said, the Twitter thing.
The Twitter thing. I don't do the Twitter thing. Someone else is doing that for us, and I'm so gracious for that.
Thanks, someone else.
Hooray.
I am busy.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to have you here, and what you're doing sounds really exciting. And
Heck yeah.
It's nice that there's I don't want to say an underrepresented part of film, but it kind of is. I mean,
it is.
It's interesting because there's definitely there are horror festivals and horror cons all over the place where it's just horror at cons, not comic books so much.
There's
and other
Scare
movies.
LA, there's Horror-Con, there's Monsterpalooza, Son of Monsterpalooza, Days of the Dead, and it's just so many. And horror is such a niche genre.
Yeah.
That it's really bizarre that so many horror fans are missing these incredible horror films.
Well, we have a few listeners that I know because they're big horror fans. Leanne, hey, what's up? And Beth also.
Guys, check us out.
Yeah,
You love us.
Check out their site. So thank you for being on. Should we talk about Big Bad Wolves?
Let's move
Well-
into Big Bad Wolves.
Should we talk about...
Coffee Countdown? Do we need to deal with that? Or
No,
we're gonna ignore
the
that?
coffee countdown was like instantaneous. And it's my fault. It's not the movie's fault.
All right.
But speaking of Big Bad Wolves,
Yeah.
in the Cottage,
Yeah.
the guy who played the farmer,
Yeah.
Dave Legeno, I believe is how you pronounce it, played a big bad wolf in a little movie called Harry Potter.
Yes.
Harry Potter, never heard of it.
Geez, which one did he first show up in? He played Fenrir Greyback.
That's probably 5.
I think 5 sounds about right,
Five
maybe
does sound
6,
about right.
but yeah, certainly around there.
That's when they sort of expanded the Death Eaters.
Yeah.
Films.
And this guy played Fenrir Greyback, and we learned tragically while looking him up that he passed away last July of 2014. I won't mention whose birthday it was,
No,
but
don't do that.
but that was some troubling news.
Sad.
Yeah.
That's
So
sad.
sadly, if they do make a The Cottage 2,
Make of the Cottage too.
if they make The Cottage 2,
Sounded-
they'll have to
Italian
unfortunately
back
recast the farmer. So respect to Dave.
Respect.
Got to play Fenrir Greyback and the farmer in this great horror movie, The Cottage.
Yep.
Let's move on to Big Bad Wolves.
Oh,
Big Bad Wolves.
one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I've been avoiding this movie for a while.
Why?
Because the way I had it described to me was that so much of it is just torture porn. And I don't go into that stuff. I know that now.
Yeah, now you know that.
But the people that explained it to me made it seem like it was... They made it sound like, oh, this movie starts with 2 guys have a man locked up in a room, and they just torture the heck out of him until they find out about
There are
something.
probably 3 moments in the film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's so much more to it.
Which is what's so cool about this movie is that it's a horror film. It's a torture film,
yeah.
but there's so little torture in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Like,
Well,
that was...
there's torture amongst the people that aren't tied up. You know,
Yeah,
they're-
yeah.
They're
There's
tortured in a-
psychological
Yeah,
torture.
they're tortured in a
Psychological.
very, very different way.
I would call this a horror noir.
No.
Sure. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. There's like a mystery going on
Yep.
there. It's very dark.
It's a very rare form of horror to find. Clive Barker does it a lot. Is
Yeah.
horror noir.
there's no women being evil in it, and
No,
I feel
there's
like
no
if
evil woman. You're right.
so,
Yeah, that's true.
but it's
The
close
mom,
enough.
mom is.
The mom.
It's
All
light.
right, we'll get
it's
there.
a light horror noir. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very funny film. If you haven't watched it, stop listening and go watch it, and then come back and listen.
Are there
to
any
this.
adult women depicted in this? Oh, the real estate agent.
The real estate
That's
agent,
it.
and we hear.
We hear
Right, but we
the
don't
women.
see it. All the rest of them are over the phone.
If you really
all
think
the-
about it,
What's
there's
that
only
about?
there's only like 5 actual people in this movie.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of actors in
Yeah.
the film.
which is brilliant.
Yeah,
Weird. All right, where do
More
we
cops
begin?
Than anything else.
More. Yeah, there's a whole lot of policemen. That's for sure.
First, it was Israeli,
Yeah,
which is awesome.
Right. The movie was shot in Israel, huh?
Shot in Israel.
two
which-
brothers, right?
What is that?
Are they brothers?
They're 2 brothers.
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting thing about Israeli film, though.
Yeah.
Not a lot of narrative horror comes out of it. Actually, not a lot of horror at all comes out of it. Israel has a very strict policy when it comes to making movies.
Okay.
It has to be approved by the Israeli Film Commission,
Okay.
and they do not like horror films.
Hmm.
There are 3 horror films that have come out of Israel ever, and that are at least like been decently distributed.
All right.
Big Bad Wolves is one of them.
Yeah.
The one before that was the same 2 guys who made a movie in 2010 called Rabies, which had a very limited festival release in here. And then the other one is another one I've never heard of and I've never found or anything like that. It doesn't even have a clickable link
Oh.
on Wikipedia.
Wow.
But it is a film that is out that is Israeli horror. But they don't usually do horror, and it could be along the lines of they see enough horror in their daily lives that there's no need for a horror film to be there, or they just are very much they want to keep the films about Israel and about living in Israel.
Sure.
And
Okay.
this was
Fair.
not about it.
No.
So they kind of went against the rules to make this movie.
Yeah.
I don't think the Israeli Film Commission sponsored. If you look in the credits, there's no "Thank you, Israeli Film Commission."
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of wondering if there's a Palestinian character in the film, and I kind of wondered if that was sort of the like the sweetener to like, yeah, it's okay to make this horror
Yeah,
film.
it's okay.
because there's something political in here, but they don't do anything with that character
No.
really.
That's kind of true. Well, yes and no.
Yes and no. We'll
Yeah.
we'll come back to him during the plot, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
this was the film that Quentin Tarantino said was his favorite film of 2013, right?
Yes.
Pretty cool.
That's a pretty nice endorsement for.
He saw it At AFI, I believe.
Oh,
I heard about it at AFI. I think he saw it before that.
Oh, he might have, yeah.
Because I saw the first showing at AFI, and
Oh,
they
you
had
did?
already said
Oh, they already said that.
it was Tarantino.
So I saw a
It's
second showing at AFI, and that's when they told us.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it has a pretty good endorsement going for it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Should
It's a
we,
big one.
The
What?
movie opens.
Should we start at the beginning
Let's start at the beginning.
with the Riddlin 2 scene?
The Ritalin 2.
Did
yeah,
you
the
notice
revenge.
that?
Yeah, the Revenge of Ritalin.
The Revenge of- yeah. For some reason, what is it? A bunch of kids playing at kind of an abandoned school? Certainly
Yeah.
a dilapidated building of
absolutely,
some
like an
sort.
old elementary school or something.
Yeah.
I have to say, it's actually my favorite scene of the whole film.
Oh, really?
Really?
Yeah, it's so like staged, like the way the kids look at each other and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's so beautifully shot, and it tells everything you need to know about the film, the intensity of the film,
Yeah.
with
All right.
one shoe.
Yeah, one shoe, you're right.
And it's
Red
it's so pretty, and how they reveal the title on the roof of the building, and
Yeah.
it just captures like what I like about the film in that short period of time, and that one little red shoe.
That's a
just
great way
says
to
so
look
much.
at it. Never thought of it that, but you're absolutely right.
Well, thanks.
Big bad
I like this guy. Let's
Yeah.
keep him around. All right.
Stick around.
So, these kids are playing hide and seek. Two
Yeah.
girls and a boy.
Recipe for disaster
Is it?
in a hide and seek game. Absolutely.
But the boy is looking for the two girls. So
Right.
No running off and
So
This is true.
children things.
the two girls, one wearing red with the little red shoes, and one wearing blue with little black Chuck Taylor kind of shoes.
Oh man, you were observant of that.
I don't remember seeing her shoes at all.
Well, I was paying attention because obviously their clothing was very vivid and
Yeah.
I think kind of important. And I knew for a fact about the shoe because I've seen the film before.
Oh, yeah, that's
so when
true.
they're running and they show the red shoes on the little girl's feet for the first time, the camera moves, and we see the second girl running just behind her in her shoes, and I just because I was
Oh,
looking
you
at the
picked up on it,
shoes, I
got
just
you.
picked up on it. But
Now the red being Little Red Riding Hood is my assumption.
Right.
yes, because of the wolves.
Big bad wolves.
Yeah, there's a wolf looking for the girl.
But really, who is the wolf? We'll get to that later.
Oh, snap. Oh, snap.
Well, as we know by the title, there's more than one wolf.
There's more than one wolf. There's a lot of wolves.
So, the two girls end up inside the building, and the one in red hides
Yeah.
in a cupboard.
Like a weird cabinet thingy.
And
I never
A wardrobe.
understood.
It's
Yeah,
a wardrobe.
It is
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
a
it's
wardrobe.
She's going to Narnia.
Narnia.
Oh.
No,
That's where she ended up. Is Narnia.
Oh,
So-
I really hope
Not
so.
exactly.
So, for whatever reason, the girl in blue decides not to hide with her. Maybe it's just she feels it's too cramped in there for both of them. So she goes and hides in some sort of like concrete tube.
Yeah, like a weird concrete pipe.
Yeah,
Pipe!
super weird. And the little boy gets done with his countdown, and he almost immediately finds the girl in blue, and together they go to
She
get
hid
the
in a
girl.
tube outside.
Now,
Super easy.
Pretty
actually,
close to where he was counting.
before we get to the girl in red, while the girl in blue is hiding, we see a shadowy figure cross the frame in the room that has the cupboard.
Yeah.
So when the girl and the boy show up to, when the boy's like finds the cupboard and he opens it up and reveals, hitting things,
Uh-oh.
reveals that the cupboard is empty with the exception of one sad little red shoe.
Oh, no.
Heartbreaking, actually.
Yeah.
It's the way it's all portrayed. It's very heartbreaking.
Quite. And then we see it written on the roof.
Big.
Big bad wolves. And the kids run outside, and for some reason someone has spray painted Ritalin 2 on the wall. And I
Which
just
probably
thought,
means something that we don't
I don't
understand.
know. I mean, there's Ritalin, the drug that they make all the kids take these days.
No,
But it was written in English.
it was
right?
written.
It was written in English,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it was
'Cause-
number 2. What's that about?
It wasn't
I don't
written in
know.
Hebrew or anything.
Not in
like
Hebrew,
that.
but in Israel, they actually have to learn English. They learn English at
Yeah.
a very, very young age.
Yeah.
Cool.
So actually, when they made this movie, they were speaking on the set half English, half Hebrew.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
That's just how they do it over there. They just
Interesting.
when I went to Israel, they spoke half English, half Hebrew. It was bizarre. Because you'd be understanding a conversation, and then all of a sudden you're not. And you're like, okay.
Whoa. What just happened?
Now, when I say some names in this, I'm probably not going to say them correctly.
Probably not.
Okay.
So,
I can help, maybe?
yeah, I'm just going to say them how I say them. And I just apologize to the viewsters and anyone who's new to this listening. I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm doing my best here.
Offend everyone.
So, drawer.
Mm-hmm.
They say it's like a little differently though. It's like there's definitely a nuance to how you say the name. But he's a school teacher, and he is clearly suspected for something because he's being dragged into a dragged. He's being dragged into what looks like maybe an abandoned building.
Yeah, just some big abandoned room.
There's 4 police officers there, 2 kind of thuggish ones that put him in a chair, and then 2 maybe more detective-y, maybe more in charge guys. One of them named Mickey.
Mickey. You got that one right. Good job.
Thank you. Yay. All right. So, I don't know if I ever picked up the other
detective's
name.
Rami.
Rami, you were correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, I was just
Mickey
seeing if you
Rami.
pay attention to it.
Yeah.
I
So,
was paying plenty of attention to this one.
Rami.
It's good.
Because I fell asleep at the first movie.
Yeah.
A lot.
You got it out of your system.
I
Rami
did.
tells Mickey, this isn't how we do it. We can't be doing this, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, he did it. I know he did it.
Yeah.
We're going to beat it out of him.
Yeah.
And so
With a phone book.
The younger detectives are beating him up. And there is somebody hidden in a doorway.
Yeah, just some
kid.
Some kid. He's got a cell phone, though. And their boss,
Zvika.
Zvika, calls multiple times. They don't answer, and then eventually they answer, and they said, "We're questioning him."
Yeah.
He's like, "Are you questioning him, or are you questioning him?" They're like, questioning him," and he's like,
Stop.
Take him home.
Yeah.
Like, escort him home, get him there safely, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, while that phone conversation is happening with Rami, Mickey has taken a phone book out and is beating the crap out of Drawer with a phone book. But the kid in the doorway is videotaping the whole thing on his phone.
Getting that eye video.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to come back to haunt everybody.
Yep. And the kid, we find out, uploads it to YouTube. We find that on a couple of scenes.
I mean, who wouldn't? You get all the hits.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you monetize that stuff, and you start making some money. And,
Yeah.
it just works out well.
Cops beating up suspected child.
Yeah. So
Everythinger.
they take
Finger.
That's sick F.
they take Drawer to home.
Yeah.
But not to the home that they think that they have on file.
Yeah.
Right.
To his parents' house. And they've got his bike in the back. Now, we learned in the phone call with Zvika.
Zvika.
Okay. That he says he ran into us with his bike.
Yeah.
So when they take him home, they give him money for his bike and for the trouble. Which tells us they probably hit him while he was on his bike.
Yeah, most likely.
But his bike didn't look messed up at all.
Didn't look terribly messed up. But
No.
so they take him home. He goes into the house. He hangs his bike up on a wall, in a wood paneled room with lots of paintings on the floor and artwork and things.
Yeah.
Assuming that's his parents' stuff. We find out later his parents are dead, so he probably has pulled all of his parents' things off the walls in the house and put them in this storage room.
Oh, no.
And Mickey gets called in to speak with Zvika. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you got that right.
Zvika.
Okay. Zvika's kid is there. Eric? Is his name?
Eric, with
Yeah.
an A.
And that kid, Eric, is no nonsense.
No.
He
He's
is.
just like his dad.
Yeah.
He is the son of a police captain.
So they essentially, Mickey gets a little bit of a threat that if he doesn't chill out on this crusade, this vendetta that he's on, he's going to be moved to traffic. He's going to become a traffic cop. Now, Drawer, we find, is a school teacher.
Yes.
Some type of high school teacher.
He's a biblical studies
right.
teacher for what looks like to be around 8th or 9th grade.
Sure.
That's my assumption.
The kids are passing notes during the exam.
How dare they?
And-
Why during an exam? That's just
Yeah.
stupid.
So he confiscates the
fault.
note, and they're like, "It doesn't have anything to do with the exam. Please don't read it." Yes.
Don't we, while Mickey is in the office with Vika and Eric, don't they get that phone call
About the other.
Yes.
I wasn't
from
sure
the guy
if that
saying,
was...
"I'm the one that did it," and
Yes, that was
tell you
actually
where to find-"
during.
Isn't
was
that during that scene?
Yes, it was during that one. Because then it was the next one he got called in and
Yeah.
turned into the traffic. Yeah, so during the scene, he got the phone call from whoever being like, the girl is, I hear you're looking for a girl.
Yeah.
She's blah, 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 blah.
And then they go and find her in the woods.
But that's after the school teacher scene.
Oh, it is? I thought the school teacher scene was right after that.
No, it goes
Oh.
the phone call, school teacher scene, then to the woods.
It's interesting because,
Huh.
for the sake of describing it,
Yeah.
it probably doesn't matter. But if you are watching the film, it absolutely matters because
Yeah,
time
absolutely.
in the film is super, super important. Like
Yeah.
what day everything is.
Yeah.
Even though they don't explicitly say this is a new day.
Yeah.
Days
No,
bleed together in it. It is really important the order in which things happen.
Absolutely.
But
Important things happen on important days.
yes, so but sadly, it doesn't really matter on this. On this
No,
thing.
it's during the talk.
But let's just talk about his school, the note. So let's
All
finish
right.
that conversation because I don't think that's vital to the situation necessarily.
Not yet.
So the kid's like, this doesn't have anything to do with the exam. Please don't read it. He opens up the note, and it's a picture, like a little crude drawing of him holding a lollipop out to a child while holding an axe behind his
The
back.
bloody
A
axe.
bloody axe, yeah.
And he's got another lollipop in his shirt pocket.
Oh, no.
And he kind of brushes it off and just tells them to get back to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then as he's grading the papers, there's all of these things that the kids have written on the tests, like rapist and child murderer. And,
Girl killer,
yeah.
Girl killer, yeah.
which I thought was strange.
Well, it probably doesn't translate super well to...
I guess so.
I mean, it might be a little more nuanced in Hebrew. But.
Yeah.
So the principal or the dean or whatever.
They call him Mir.
Mir, yeah.
Mir.
He comes in and he's like, how are things going? Blah, blah, blah. Because, and this is where we find out, the YouTube video has been uploaded.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Mickey doesn't know yet. He hasn't
Right.
had that conversation with his
No,
boss.
not yet.
So,
He finds out after he becomes a traffic cop.
after the phone call.
Yeah.
So you're probably right.
They go discover the boss.
So there is a phone call.
Well, first, let's finish the school scene.
Yeah. I'm getting mixed up. It's getting late.
It's getting late.
So Mir's like, well, how are the students doing on their test, on their exam? And he's like, I haven't really had a chance to look at them all yet. And so Mir takes one and looks at it and sees the stuff written on there, and he explains that the parents have sort of been worried and they've been saying stuff. Clearly, they poisoned the kids.
Mm-hmm.
This is a problem. Blah blah blah.
But I'm sure it'll all blow over and you can come back to work soon.
Yeah.
Soon.
Essentially, he's on leave.
Yeah.
Now, there's a phone call to the police with a disguised voice of some kind,
Yeah, I would say so.
telling them that they know where this girl is.
Yeah.
So,
Poor little Mika.
Yeah.
Mickey, you confused me when you said Mika there. So Mickey and Rami go
Yep.
out to the woods. Maybe I got the feeling maybe it's like kind of like a national park kind of situation.
Yeah.
And Mickey is going one way, and Rami's going another way, and he's eating this cheeseburger wrapped in foil.
Look delicious.
Oh, you know what? I always feel like cheeseburgers in film always look good.
You're not wrong.
And so he's looking at the ground, and he's eating this cheeseburger, and then he starts to see gummy worms and gummy bears on the
Yeah.
ground, a very
Oh, no.
Hansel and Gretel-y kind of thing going on here in a trail, and he starts to follow it, and he looks up, and he calls out to Mickey and says, you need to come over here. And they find the girl
Yeah.
sitting in the chair, barbed wire wrapping her legs, holding her to the chair, and her
Yeah.
legs cut up.
Her panties around
And
her,
her
shins.
panties, down around her shins. And then we get a wide shot where we see that she has no head.
No.
No head.
And that's when
Brutal.
Vika shows up and says, Mickey, you're off this case. You're busted all the way down to traffic
Yeah.
because you let this happen.
And the father shows up.
The father shows up and is being restrained. The father of the dead girl.
He's almost hulking out at that
Mickey
point.
kind of passes by as the father gets there and is being restrained.
They get a glance at each other. Basically, the poor girl's dead, and the cops are saying it's Mickey's fault because when he took that guy in the wrong way, and the cops were forced to let him go, he went and killed the girl, and now
Send a message.
to send a message, and now they basically can't bust him again because they've already fouled up the investigation with that guy.
Yeah.
With Dror.
Right. Mickey goes to work as he gets his little new uniform.
Yeah.
Traffic cop or whatever. And he's talking to a guy, and he's like, "Oh, you're famous," and shows him that there's this YouTube video of him beating the guy up. He's like, "Can you get
40,000 hits in 2 days is what he said.
Was it 40? I thought it was only 4.
I thought it was just 4 too, but
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
it was 4?
it's a lot.
I remember
It's more
thinking
than,
that's a fairly low
more than I've ever
number.
gone in 2 days. So
Oh,
whatever.
probably, yeah, maybe 4.
And this is where I'm a little bit confused because he's been moved to traffic,
Yeah.
but then he gets called back in to talk to
Once they found the YouTube video.
once they found the YouTube
Because
video.
he got pulled off the case, put on the traffic, then they found the YouTube video as a company, and then he got put on leave.
So then he gets put on leave. So that's very succinct.
Yeah.
So Zvika tells him, that he's off on leave.
Is he on leave or is he flat out fired?
No, he was on leave.
Well,
Because I remember Zvika said something like, "You're a civilian now. You can do
I
whatever you
think-
want. Like I have to do it the cop way. You can do whatever you want."
I'm not 100% sure. I'll tell you what Wikipedia says that he's
Yeah.
fired.
Oh.
He says he's fired.
Yeah,
Huh.
and I'm using Wikipedia for listeners. I'm using Wikipedia tonight for our notes, just for our outline, just to kind of keep us on track as best as we can. I know we get off track quite a bit.
So get on Wikipedia and change it around to confuse us.
Yeah, perfect. So
Too bad they'll hear this way after.
It's true.
Zika,
But they'll
basically
try.
what you said,
Yeah.
tells him that, as a cop, he can't touch him, can't
Yeah.
follow him, can't try to get any information out of him. But as a civilian, he could, as long as he doesn't get
Right.
caught. Yes.
That's
a
advice my
great-
dad used to give
great
me.
little smirk the captain gives him there at that point.
Yeah. Zvika looked terrifying. He looked like a terrifying man.
And the implication is that if he gets a confession from Dror, it will clear his name and he'll be able to be reinstated as a detective.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the case is Rami's.
Yes.
So the girl's father, Gidi,
Gidinka.
Gidinka, yeah. He had a complicated name. They kept calling him Giddy, but his name is Gidinka.
And it had
Sure.
You said it right.
It had an
go with-
apostrophe
let's
in
go
it
with
too.
Gidi. Gidi?
Yeah, I think his dad calls him Gidi.
Gidi.
Or Giddy, something like
All
that.
right. He also suspects that Dror is the killer. And he starts to plot a kidnapping. We see him putting some things together. In the meantime, we also see Mickey putting some things together.
Yeah.
Mickey... no. Dror, we learn, has a daughter of his own.
Right.
He has a phone conversation with his wife. And he's like, it's her birthday, I really want to see her. And she's like, nah, you can't see her. Meanwhile, he's looking at this girl's in a ballet class.
Yeah, first he goes and hangs out at a playground, and then he goes and looks at a
He's gotta walk
ballet
his dog
class
somewhere.
through. Yo, dog, when you're in that kind of trouble, you don't go hanging around a
No,
playground
you're totally
drawer.
right. You're totally right. But anyways, so he's like, I want to give her this bike that I got her. I know she's got ballet. Maybe I can see her after that. And he's looking at his ballet class and stuff. And Mickey and Giddy are both like prepping it all this time.
Yeah.
And then we see that Dror indeed has the little ballet girl at his house, and he's made the birthday cake for her.
Uh-oh.
And he lights the candles on it.
No, it's sweet.
And
'cause
yeah, it's totally sweet.
It's his daughter.
Sure.
So
It's got to be his daughter, right?
It's got to be his daughter.
So Well, they've all seen the movie. At this
Hopefully.
point.
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully you all have seen the movie, because otherwise you were missing something incredible.
So, then we see on another day, maybe the next day, probably Thursday, I would assume.
Because
Yeah.
would it be Thursday at this point?
Well,
yeah, it is Thursday.
It's
At this
Thursday.
Point. Yeah,
We'll
it's
cover
gotta
that
be Thursday.
again later, but
That's right.
yeah, we'll cover the thing that we kind of missed
Yeah.
a little bit later.
Now he's sitting. Now Jorah's sitting in the park.
He goes to the park again. He goes to walk his dog at the park.
But we missed the real estate scene.
Oh, we did miss the real estate
The
scene.
real estate
Oh,
scene,
So,
baby.
in the prep, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
No big deal.
It's scary though.
Well, right now we're at three. We have three separate stories. that are happening
Yeah,
at the same
it's going
time.
back and forth. Hi, Walt. Walt's coming by to visit.
Oh hi.
That means Desiree. Hi, Desiree. She just waved. So, in the prep for all of this, Giddy goes and buys this house out
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere,
In a
near
hellhole.
near the
In a
border.
hellhole,
They refer to it as a
surrounded by
hellhole.
Arabs.
Yeah, and he gets the real estate agent to go down into the basement with him, and he says, "You stay down here, count to 10. I'm gonna go upstairs, count to 10, and then start screaming." And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "My son plays the drums. And I
Yeah.
want to make sure it doesn't disturb me." So
Legit reason.
She
actually.
also offers him sex.
well,
That's what
she kind of
it
implies
looks
that
like
she's
it,
willing
yeah.
to, yeah.
She's about to hit on him, and
I think
like,
they-
let's go check out the bedroom first.
I think
No, wanna
they've
check out the
boned
basement.
before.
And she's like tested out.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, he's
I
an
think,
adulterer.
I think those two have boned
And
down.
he's an
before.
adulterer, yes.
Yeah, he is an adulterer. So maybe they probably have boned before. No, that's very likely.
So
I think they have.
when he goes upstairs and outside, you can't hear her screaming.
Right.
So success. So he buys the place.
Good, because those drums get loud.
Yeah,
They do.
How you doing, Des? You want to say hi to the Viewsters? Oh, they did not hear that. There you go. So then we get Dror's kidnapping. He goes to the park with the dog.
Yeah.
And just as Giddy is going to get out of his car to abduct Dror, he sees Mickey sneaking up.
Yep.
Mickey has a
Taser.
taser.
Stun gun.
Stun gun.
Is it
yeah.
stun gun?
Yeah.
Okay.
The taser fires the-
right?
Oh, taser
Fires the wires.
He's got like kind of like a little shocker cattle prod type of thing, but like,
like
a
in
little handle.
Batman Returns.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So
I haven't
Catwoman
thought about
uses-
that movie in forever.
the dog runs up to him and he tries to get the dog to go away. The dog does not, so he pulls the gun out and he puts that dog down with the gun.
With the
The
stun
dog doesn't
gun.
necessarily die, but he gives the dog 3 or 4 extra
Yeah.
little shots. And then, of
Dog's
course,
a
that's
prick.
when Dror turns around and hears his dog in pain. He turns around and sees him, and he starts a running.
Yeah.
And they start running through
back alleyways.
back alleyways.
and-
You said this is Tel Aviv?
Yes, it looks like Tel Aviv. That big building in the back is straight up in the middle of Tel Aviv.
Cool.
It's a good foot chase.
It
Yeah.
is. Garbage cans get knocked over, and
Walls
alleys
get jumped
Yeah,
and-
walls get jumped.
Yeah,
and
it's
there's-
good chasing. You're
Yeah.
right.
Good, pretty good little chase scene.
And it ends with a blocked alleyway.
Yeah.
And Dror tries to get past this truck, but can't squeeze through, and he's caught. And Mickey
Fudge.
shocks him unconscious, stuffs the body in his trunk, and Giddy, getting mixed up on the names, man.
Mhm.
Giddy sees this and tails them.
Right.
And tails them out into the middle of some forest, out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
Wilderness.
And Mickey gets gets Dror out of the car, gives him a shovel, and says, "Start digging." And he's trying to, find out where are the heads, and you confess where the heads are, blah blah blah. And Mickey takes a gun out, removes the bullets, puts one back in, and does like a little Russian roulette thing
Yeah.
to try and scare him. And when he fires down towards Dror's leg, it doesn't fire.
Nope.
Yeah,
So he
bullet.
takes a second bullet out and puts that in and
screwed
spins it. He does this till there's 3 bullets in there, and then Giddy shows up with a shovel, another shovel,
Another shovel.
hits him on the head with the shovel, knocks him out.
Yup.
Mhm.
So he's like, "Help me get him in the car."
Yeah.
And he
Smart.
tells
Giddy's smart.
Dror that he's with internal affairs.
Right.
So they get him in the car, and he's like, okay, now, Drawer, you can get in the car. Drawer starts to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he takes a shovel, and he hits Drawer as well.
Another shovel nap.
And then when he wakes up, he's in the basement.
Yeah.
Attached to the chair that he has set up previously in the film with bolts in the floor.
Yeah.
Straps.
Leather straps to his arms, yeah. So he has Drawer tied to the chair, and he has Mickey handcuffed upstairs.
Yeah,
at
with
this
tape
point,
on his mouth.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, the tape on his mouth. Yeah, yeah.
So he takes the tape off, of course. He like, are you crazy? Don't you know him? And he puts the tape back on. He's like, look, we should have an understanding here. Knock my microphone.
We're adults. We'll talk.
Yeah.
So he takes the tape off, and he offers him some potential solutions to the jam that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys remember what they are?
The first one was... I remember the second one. I don't remember the first one. I know the second one was he gets framed.
He gets framed
For the murder of Drawer in downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
First one was he run away and...
He kills him.
He kills him,
Yeah.
He would kill him. Then the third option was he becomes an accomplice.
Yeah.
And that's the best option for really everybody involved.
So
Pretty much.
that's the one he goes for. So they go downstairs.
Don't blame him, actually. I think.
Yeah, they both want the information.
Yeah, they both are out.
They both believe
have
he's,
the same goal.
he's guilty. So Giddy tells Drawer a fairy tale, which is sort of the theme of this whole thing, right? The Big Bad Wolves thing. So we got new Big Bad Wolves here. He tells him the fairy tale about the wolf that's stalking the young girls and what he does to the girls and how
he doesn't just frighten them in the woods and swallow them whole.
Right.
No,
Now this wolf drugs them and violates all of their holes, is what he says.
quote unquote.
He breaks their fingers,
Mm-hmm.
pulls their toenails off.
But he lets them sleep it off first. He breaks their fingers till they pass out. Then when they wake up, he then pulls off all the toenails, lets them pass out, then wakes up and cuts off their head.
Yes, with a rusty saw.
With an old rusty.
2 of the girls were awake for it.
Barf.
And he throws the photos of the headless girls at him, and he wants to know where the heads are.
Where is the head of my daughter?
Yeah.
I have a daughter of my own. I didn't do it.
Right.
That becomes the whole rest of the movie. I didn't do it.
So then they decide that they're going to play... Well, they've decided at this point that they're going to play bad cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
And they're going to start with breaking of the fingers.
Ooh.
And Mickey does confirm with him that they aren't going to violate all of his holes, right?
Yeah, well, he says, like...
I guess
he
Giddy,
says,
Giddy
shouldn't...
tells him that, yeah.
But he says, Mickey's like, shouldn't we, like, plug him first? And Giddy's like, I mean, you're not really into that, are you? Like,
it's like we should follow exactly what he did,
Baker
right?
McKay, yes.
So we sedate him, and that means we're going to plug all his holes.
Yeah.
Unless you're into that.
He's like, we can skip some of this stuff,
So they flip a coin for who's going to start with the breaking of the fingers.
Yeah.
Mickey
And they
wins
lose
that.
the coin.
Yeah.
They lose the coin.
That's
Oh my
the
god.
silliest
Yeah.
part.
So
Roar's just sitting there, just oh my god, the tension just
Yeah.
builds and builds and builds.
Mickey has a hard time doing it face to face, so he gets behind him, and he does break a finger.
Oh.
With his hands, with his bare hands.
His bare hands just yanks it
Snap.
back the wrong way.
Ooh.
Makes one of the worst sounds I've ever heard.
It is Giddy's turn to break, and he decides he's going to use a hammer.
Good old fashioned hammer.
And just before he can do the hammer, his phone rings,
Oh yeah,
and it's his mother.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He goes upstairs.
Such a stereotypical mother.
He goes upstairs to talk to the mother, and while he's up there, Mickey tries to get Drawer to talk.
Yeah.
And nothing really happens there.
No.
Now the mother,
Drawer kind of guilts him a little bit, though.
Yeah, Drawer reminds me. He's like, I've got a daughter.
I've got a
Why would
daughter.
I ever do that to somebody else's daughter?
It's like, you're a father yourself.
right,
Right? I would assume.
right.
He
Your father,
starts
right?
to believe him.
He lays it out right there.
So
Yeah.
You don't catch it the first time.
Giddy has this conversation with his mother about that new house and how he split from his wife and all this stuff, and the mother's guilting him like, oh, especially at a time like this, you should be there for her and all this stuff. And she's like, we're coming over. Your father and I are coming over. And he's like, no. I'm sick. Yeah. And they have a very like guilt-filled conversation over the
Breaking
phone.
my heart.
Yeah. I want you to know you've broken my heart.
Yeah.
So we're bringing you soup.
So he gets off the phone with her, and he goes downstairs and picks up the hammer, and he lays into a hand.
Yeah, he does.
Lays in the whole hand, not just one finger.
Yeah.
The entire hand.
Takes out his anger for his mother out on this guy.
Yeah. It's gnarly.
Who would?
But Mickey stops him after the first few blows.
Yeah.
And then Giddy is like, whoa, what happened? Are you like, did this guy sweet talk you? Like, are you starting to believe him? Mm-hmm. So he knocks Mickey out with a gun. He pistol whips him, knocks him out, chains him to a post.
Handcuffs him. Yep.
Handcuffs him to a post. And gags him.
Of course.
Puts a dirty gag in his mouth. Which I think he could have easily reached with his hand and gotten out of his
I think
mouth.
so too. I've never got that though. Like when they put the gag in the mouth, like how come they can't ever pull it out, or they can't spit it out, or like move it out with their tongue? I mean, I've never been gagged like that, so.
I mean,
I guess if it's tied a certain way, it just really pulls back. And
sounds like we have a plan for next Saturday night.
No, that's Halloween night.
So
I mean, no one will question
he
Halloween night.
after Mickey is chained up, it's time for the toenails.
Oh, gross. That was so awful.
So he takes off the shoe and the sock, and he tries to get the information. Of course, George's like, I didn't do anything, so just do your thing. Just do it already.
Yeah.
And he proceeds to pull those toenails off with some pliers.
Oh yeah.
Definitely gets 3 of them off.
Yeah.
After the first one, he gestures with the pliers, and you can see the toenail
You
in
can
the pliers.
see it in the pliers.
It's
oh god.
pretty
So gnarly.
intense.
Oh, God.
And before he gets to the 4th toenail, there's a buzz.
Yeah, buzz at the door.
So he goes upstairs and opens the door. Who's at the door?
Daddy-o.
Daddy-o is at the door, and he's got the soup. He's got soup.
He's got soup. Dad always brings good soup. Dad, if you're listening, you make good soup.
All right.
Good soup, Dad.
Daddy always brings good soup. It's the truth, though.
Wait, did we miss the horseback rider? Or does that happen while his dad's on?
That was before the dad, actually. So the horseback rider shows up. It's interesting we didn't really talk about it because the scene, I don't think, has any consequence really to the film other than to say something in subtext, right?
Yeah.
So there's he takes a break after he's locked the men up, right? And he goes
he's
so,
both of
yeah.
them up, yeah.
he goes outside and rolls a cigarette, and a Palestinian horseback rider shows up. And probably if you don't know that there's animosity between the two, if you're not that well educated,
Yes.
you get that later in the film that there's a fear between each other
Yeah.
and a hatred. But you don't pick that up in this scene.
No, they're
right?
very, very civil with each other.
And the horseback rider goes up and he sees that he's rolling a cigarette and he says, can I get one? And he goes, here, you can take mine. And he takes one drag off of it and gives it back. And he's like, that's it? And he's like, my wife won't let me smoke. That's
Your
all I need.
wife.
And he says, your wife.
Your wife.
And I mean, do you guys have any feelings about the scene?
Well, didn't you point out, Neil, that when the Palestinian man shows up, he greets him with a salam alaikum.
Yes.
And then,
Alaikum salam.
yeah, and Giddy speaks back to him in
Arabic. Yeah.
in Arabic.
And they speak Arabic throughout that conversation. And then
Right.
at the end, instead of saying shalom, they say shlaka, I think is how you say goodbye in Arabic. Don't quote me on that because I'm not 100% sure. But they speak Arabic throughout the whole conversation, which shows that they are civil with each other.
Right.
And both men are intelligent and understanding of each other.
Right.
Which, what that context really means per the film, I don't know 100%. But government-wise and that...
So I'll tell you my thought on it, and I'll kind of address when you see the man on horseback again, but we won't go into detail what that scene's about just yet. because we see another character interact with that man on horseback and is frightened by him because of the expectation of who the Palestinians are. And I think that the purpose of the scene is just to show through subtext who the wolf really is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On the outside, to the average person in Israel, the wolf is the Palestinian. But he shows up and it turns out he's civil.
Right.
Meanwhile, the real wolf in sheep's clothing is being very, very civil, but he's got guys locked up in his basement.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he's torturing.
Okay, I think you're...
And also the wolf
spot on with that.
So that's-
might be the school teacher that's tied to the chair for allegedly beheading a tiny girl.
Sure, right. So the school teacher could be a wolf. We know for sure Mickey's a wolf. We know for sure that Giddy is a wolf.
Yeah.
We have another wolf that we've sort of talked about. We'll get back to that now.
Buzz. Who's at the door?
So the father,
Giddy's father
has this conversation. They eat their soup, and they have this conversation about what Giddy's going through, and
Yeah. What else does the father show up with besides just soup?
a rifle.
He's got a rifle over his shoulder like it's no big deal.
Oh, well, they're going into the middle of the hellhole. Where
Yeah.
Arabs
They're on the
surrounded you.
border, right?
Yeah, you don't go in unprotected. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just a very general
Right.
idea.
And we do learn that,
Okay.
that the father is a war veteran.
Yeah.
As
Well,
well.
in Israel,
Well, in Israel, you are mandated to join the war or join the army at 18.
yeah, everybody, right?
Everybody.
Sure, but
males and
everybody
I
has
think
to.
there's a difference between joining and actively participating in torture, which is implied by the fact that the
Yeah.
father is.
Well, whatever they teach you in the Israeli military is very, very secretive.
Yeah.
Except that in the film, he specifically says
Says that
they don't teach
They
you
don't
guys
teach
this
you
stuff
this
anymore.
Yeah.
So we know that he probably the father is going to put some things into use that he probably put into use during the war.
Yeah.
So
boy.
ultimately, they hear a noise downstairs, and he's
It's a rat,
like,
of
"You have a
course.
rat! It's a big ass rat." So, Giddy says, "I'll take care of it. I'll go down and deal with it." And so he goes down, and he is about to do something. What is he about to do when the father comes down? He's about to hit one of them, right?
Yeah.
I think he's about to hit Mickey, maybe.
No, really? Why would he be about to hit Mickey?
Oh, no, I remember what he has. He's
got the screw.
He's got the screws. He rebolts the
yeah.
chair back to the ground, and then he cuts. He
Yeah,
says,
he takes the
"No
point
more
of a
noise. Do you
screw."
understand?" And
cuts
the
the-
guy, he's not. If you understand, he doesn't nod, and he cuts Drawer across the head with a nail, and then he
Yeah.
turns to Mickey, and he's threatening Mickey, and he says, "Do you understand?" And that's when the father shows up downstairs, and he's like, "What is going on?"
Right.
So they go back
Very
upstairs
calmly, though.
Yeah.
What are you doing, son?
because he's gonna have his back no matter what, right?
Yeah,
it's like
of course.
a kid. So they go upstairs and they have this conversation, and he tells his father, Giddy tells his father, the story about how he's got to get find out where the head is.
It's his
because
responsibility.
It's his responsibility, and you're not supposed to bury your child. And my wife
Yeah.
certainly shouldn't have to bury her child without a head.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
He feels guilty. He says it's his fault because he should have picked her up that day.
so he missed picking her up, and
Because he was getting a beach.
yeah, from his secretary.
Yes.
Catching a beach.
So
From his own
the
employee.
dad's like, "There's nothing I can do to prevent you from doing this," and he's like, "Nope."
Nope.
And so the dad's like, "Well, let's do it right."
Yeah.
And enters the fourth wolf.
Yeah, the fourth wolf has arrived, and he says, "Have you tried the fire test yet?" And that's when the conversation about, they don't teach you.
Yeah, they don't teach you this
stuff
stuff
anymore.
anymore.
So he's like, "Go get a blowtorch." So the dad goes downstairs and sits down across from them, and he actually goes down and starts to threaten Mickey.
Right.
Thinking Mickey's the pedophile. And then Giddy comes down and is like, "No, it's the wrong guy. I could see how you made the mistake because Mickey looks more like a pedophile than the other guy."
Yeah.
He would have heard a fly.
And that's a great point. That's another great moment I really love from the film where he
Yeah.
says he wouldn't hurt a fly, and Giddy says that's why he does it to little girls.
Yes.
And it's a great line that kind of cuts to your core.
Yeah.
It reminds, because you spend so much time watching these people torture this guy, and you're not really sure, you're not 100% sure whether Dror did it or not.
Right.
There's definitely some doubt sowed there. So you get kind of inundated with this adult like caper that you sort of forget about the kids after a while.
Yeah.
And so for him to like bring that up and to say it that way, I think kind of brings it back for you.
Yeah.
Reminds you why they're doing it. So so they get the blowtorch out and they rip open Drawer's shirt.
This one's intense.
Yeah.
And they cook his chest.
They do.
Oh man, it smells like barbecue.
Yeah.
And it's so unfortunate that his dad's a vegetarian now.
Yeah, oh,
'Cause
God.
it just makes him hungry.
Yeah.
Giddy, when you were a boy, didn't you love hot dogs?
Then they go into hot dogs.
Now, what they don't
Whoa.
know is that when the father came down and saw Giddy down there, Giddy dropped his little jar of nails and screws.
Yeah,
Mickey has been hiding a nail under his foot this whole time.
right.
And when the father and son go upstairs to talk, Mickey tells Drawer, you need to tell them where to go find a head. And he's like,
Yeah.
I didn't do it. And he's like, just tell them. It'll get them out of here. I've got this nail. I can get us out of here. But you need to take some more pain first. And the
Yeah.
guy gives him this look like, look at me. I'm bleeding all over. But he basically agrees.
He lets his chest get cooked.
So the chest gets cooked, and it is
Ugh.
a wound.
Mm-hmm.
Then they
Oh, it's so
decide
nasty.
to aim the blowtorch towards the crotch,
The hot dog.
the hot dog.
You like hot dogs, right?
Yeah.
Oh, who doesn't?
So he's like, okay, I'll talk. And so they button his shirt back up, and he tells them that there's a construction site where they're building a new wing at the school.
Yeah.
And he buried it underneath a fan in that construction site.
Yeah.
And so,
Oh, man.
Giddy, I have to like stop and think about their names every time.
Yeah.
Giddy tells his father, "Can you watch them? I'm gonna go check this out." And the father's like, "You can trust me." Giddy leaves. The father gets a phone call. Tika 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 tika. And it's he puts it on speakerphone, so we get to hear
You get to hear the mom.
the mom. Yeah.
She's amazing.
And she's like, how come you haven't called? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm doing stuff with the son. And she gets on him and she's like, have you taken your pill? And he's like, I forgot. And she's like, you have to take it. You need to eat something solid beforehand or else you get gas. And da da da. And he's like, no, I don't really get gas. So he goes upstairs to look for something to eat.
There's only one thing to eat in the house.
There's only one thing to eat in the house. We didn't really talk about it, but we'll talk about it now.
That was a montage scene.
So, as part of the prep, now we remember Mickey asked him, don't we need to sedate him because he feeds the kids candies and cakes that are sedated. At some point after Mickey is chained up, Giddy makes a cake with sedatives in it.
It
Yeah.
looks delicious.
And
Is it in the fridge?
he cuts a piece out to try to feed to Drawer, but Drawer doesn't eat it, so nothing ever happens to that piece of cake. But he leaves the rest of the cake in the fridge. So, anyways, of course,
The father.
the father finds the cake and is like, "Ooh, cake."
Dads love cake.
Now,
It's got delicious cream cheese icing. Why
Yeah.
would it not be good?
so
I might go get a cake after this.
Giddy goes,
A late cake.
gets to the school, and he finds the van and he starts digging. The father shows up back downstairs with a piece of cake. He's like, you won't be offended if I don't offer you any. And
Yeah.
the two guys are just looking at each other like, is he going to really eat the cake?
The drug cake.
And he gets a couple bites in, and then he's got some dry mouth, so he goes to the sink to get some water, and he starts to pass out.
Yeah, that stuff hits hard.
Drops the
That hit him
glass
real
in the
hard.
sink, and then he falls down on the ground.
3 bites and he was done.
And that's when Mickey gets the nail and gets his handcuffs off. And he's like, I'll go get help and I'll come back for you. And Drawer's like, no, you can't leave me here. So he starts to undo Drawer, and then he's like, no,
You're going to slow me down.
you're going to slow me down. I can do this faster on my own. So he leaves him tied up in there. Mostly tied up. He actually, his left hand is unhooked, but that hand is
crushed.
smashed completely, so he can't really get the other strap off. So Mickey gets outside and he gets on this little bike that was left there. There's a little reference to it at the beginning of the film. Not really that important. There's a bike there. He gets on this kid's bike and rides off through the woods. Giddy doesn't find a head underneath the fan. And he...
To be fair, he doesn't really dig all that deep.
He's like 3 or 4 feet down.
I'd say 2.
Whatever. He digs down a little bit. There's no
A
head.
little bit.
He feels like he's been duped.
Yeah.
So he's pissed off. So he gets in his car and he starts speeding back. And there's like these kind of dueling shots of Giddy driving back really fast and taking these turns really fast and screeching around corners and whatnot. And Mickey on his little BMX going through the forest.
This is where Mickey meets the guy on the horse.
Mickey meets the guy on the horse. So this is the other scene with the guy on the horse. And that's where we
Palestinian
see
horseman.
sort of the prejudice that some people have.
Yeah, Mickey immediately puts his
hands up. He's like, "Don't shoot me." And there's not really much of a hint that the Palestinian has a gun, right?
No,
Right,
there's no hint of that.
He's just on a horse.
He's found a Palestinian in the middle of the night, and he got scared and put his arms up.
Yeah. And there's a conversation sort of like, "That's what you expect of us people," and he's like, "You wouldn't have a cell phone?" And he's like, "What? I wouldn't have a phone because I'm primitive. That's what you want me, you know?" And he hands him the phone, and it's an iPhone, and he's like,
4S.
S4S, I think.
Yeah.
S4, yeah.
Backwards, I guess, over there.
Yeah.
Maybe we're backwards.
Well, they
Maybe.
do right to left instead of left to right. So, yeah, it's backwards.
So, Mickey makes a phone call.
To Sveka.
Like tell the police this you gotta come out here, and he's like, I gotta talk to Sveka, and the secretary puts him on the phone, and Zvika's like, I've been trying to get a hold of you all night, blah blah blah. And then in the back, he's like, your wife's
is here,
hysterical.
Yeah.
And then he hears his wife in the background. She's like, is that him? Give me the phone. And she gets the phone. And she's like, where is she? And he's like, where's who?
Getting chills just thinking about that.
And
that was intense.
She's like, you picked her up after ballet class. What did you do with her? And that's when he realizes, I didn't pick her up from ballet class.
He was too obsessed.
He was
too
yeah.
obsessed with setting up his plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Getting his go bag ready and the shovels. And he hangs up on them. And he starts running.
He books it all the way
Leaves the
back.
bike. Doesn't ask for the horse.
Mm-mm.
Just starts running back. And he starts running through the woods. Giddy gets back to the house. And he gets downstairs and sees that Mickey's gone.
Doesn't really care too much though.
Doesn't care so much about that because his father is unconscious on the ground, and he's like really worried about his dad.
Yeah.
And so then he goes back over to Drawer and he straps him back in, and then he turns around and starts looking at the tools. Mickey gets back to the cabin, and he creeps in, like trying not to be too obvious.
Right.
Does he stops and gets the
wrench.
like a
wrench.
big adjustable wrench.
Yeah.
and then he starts heading through the
A
tunnel,
pipe wrench.
Yeah,
thing.
that's what it is. Pipe wrench. Yeah.
The tunnel to the downstairs
Yeah.
basement area.
Which was strange.
It was a
Oh,
little
that's
weird.
so cool looking though.
It was really
It
cool
was
looking.
great looking, but it's like, why would that tunnel be up in the high part of the house and then
lead you
lead to
down.
a stairway that then goes down into the basement?
It's interesting because the
it's super
door
cool looking.
in the living
Yeah.
room, the door in the living room went down 2 or 3 steps into the tunnel,
Yeah.
and then there was a tunnel, and then it turned left, and then a longer tunnel to a door that led to stairs.
Yeah, that
something.
then
Who knows?
went underground.
But
Who
It's
knows
very
how they built
strange setup.
basements like
yeah,
that?
it was cool though. It did look cool.
Yeah.
So he is going through the tunnel, and Giddy gets the rusty saw,
Oh, yeah.
and he goes over, and he's like, "It's time for this," and he starts sawing into that guy's neck,
Right to the
Blood-
jugular.
The drawers.
blood
neck,
squirting everywhere, and
Oh, man.
and that's when Mickey comes in, and he's like, "What have you done?"
What have you done?
And he's like, "We gotta save him. We gotta save him. You know, you guys go grab something for me to put on him." And the father's
holding-
awake now.
He's like trying to like hold the blood.
Yeah,
in.
and he's like, "Tell me where you hit her. Where did you hide my daughter?" And
That's when Giddy and
Giddy and his father are like,
Right.
"What have we done?"
yeah.
And obviously, Drawer can't talk.
Right.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
he's bleeding
Mickey's
from
like,
the
get paper, and they get paper, and they put the pencil in Drawer's hand, and Drawer kind of flicks it, drops it out of his hand,
Yeah.
intentionally.
neck. Yeah.
And Mickey looks up at him, and Dror gives him a little bit of a smile and then dies. Now, because we know this, I want to address something that Dror said that I skipped over kind of intentionally.
Okay.
When he's trying to get Mickey to untie him and take him with him, he says to him, if you leave me here, you're going to regret this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it was...
So he was kind of telling him,
Yep.
this is the situation. Something they gave us our last hint before,
Yeah.
before the
Brilliant.
yeah.
So subtle.
So
Oh, brilliant.
the three men are left. The three wolves are left looking at their bloody carcass prey.
Who's also a wolf.
Who is a wolf?
Who's a wolf, right? He's
The
a wolf.
worst of
But
the wolves.
he's the worst of the wolves, but he's the one that now has won.
Yeah, absolutely. So
The
then
last
we
shot.
get to see Rami in the wolf's house, in Dror's house, and he's in the room with all the paintings and stuff.
Yeah.
He's looking around and he doesn't really see anything, and he gets this call, and he's like, we didn't find anything, we're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
He shuts the light off, right? And
I
He
forget.
just closes the door.
He just closes the
and he
door.
walks out.
we see the bike on the wall,
Yeah.
and the camera pans through the wall, and we see that there's a false door where the bike is, and the girl in the ballerina outfit, who we now know is Mickey's daughter,
Yup.
is laid out on the bed, completely passed out, gonna die,
Probably
Gonna
dead
die.
already.
starving.
The fact
to
that they were
Yeah.
just like, she just walked out, and that, boom, end credits.
death.
That was effed up. S.
Yeah. All right, so
My heart still hurts.
Steve,
Yeah.
sir, you've never seen this movie before, and
Not
you
until
you
tonight.
resisted it, but because of the
I resisted it because I was given bad information about it.
So what'd you think about it?
I thought it was pretty good. The torture was very intense, but I was glad that there was not as much of it as I'd heard that there was. And yeah, I definitely liked, the mysteries that they kept playing with. Because for a good long while, I was like, maybe Dror is innocent.
Right?
But if he is, like, then who the heck do they need to be looking at? Because, it's just like they keep suggesting his innocence, but they also don't go looking at anybody else.
What did you write down on your paper? Who did it?
Very early, I wrote the principal did it, because in that scene with all the slander on the tests, Dror's there looking at it and reading these horrible messages, and then you hear his principal say something, and it very ominously pans over to him standing in the door, and he's he looks like a creepy dude. He's wearing a black sweater, he's in charge of the school. He's in a position of power over children. He might very well have done it too, and maybe Dror's just this unfortunate red herring for now.
Yeah,
but then we never saw him again.
I think that's probably very intentional. I think that
Yeah.
they put some hints with Rami in there, how he's eating, how he's devouring that
Yeah.
cheeseburger. I don't think is just for comedy or whatever. I think that's sort of supposed to be a subtle, again, a kind of a carnivore.
Yeah, and also he
wolf.
is the one that finds her in the woods, so it's like
Right. So
maybe he did know
he
exactly
finds
where
her,
to go.
he finds the girl in the woods.
Yep.
He is very resistant to them torturing somebody
Yeah.
who
Yep.
could be innocent.
He's the one who's actually not involved with it. He's just kind of standing on the sideline.
Right. And you get the feeling that when the case is passed to Rami, nothing's ever going to happen with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Whether it's by ineptitude or the fact that he's actually the guy.
Right.
Turns out to be ineptitude, and very,
Of course.
unfortunately.
Right.
Damn it, Rami.
Yeah, I get so into these movies, and I still am feeling for that girl, man. It's that's
Yeah.
sucks. I'm feeling for Mickey.
It was funny. It's funny. I was sitting next to you on the couch, and I heard
Yeah.
you gasp a couple times and stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
"He's seen this
I
movie
see it.
before."
I do that. I get really into movies.
I like it. No, I like it.
Yeah, no matter if I've seen it once or 25 times, I'm still super glued, and I get really, really emotional for the characters, and that's always been a thing with me, and maybe that's why I'm so attracted to movies.
That's
Yeah.
a good way to watch
Yeah.
movies.
Even-
Right.
And no matter how many times I've seen it, Donnie Darko is one of those ones I will emotionally get into all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm fully in agreement, which I know is not a word. I'm fully in agreement with you on Donnie Darko. You said a movie that you've seen 25 times. Can you name a movie off the top of your head you think you've seen 25 times?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Really?
Yeah.
25 times.
I've probably seen it over 25 times. I watch it at least 3 to 4 times a year.
Wow, all right.
And I've been watching this movie since I was 4 years old.
Okay.
So if you really put that in perspective, I probably have seen this movie close to 60 to 80 times.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen Donnie Darko probably closer on the 15 amount time side.
I'm probably right about there.
I've seen Halloween once a year since I was at least once a year since I was 7.
Sure.
So
Did you say you've been watching Nightmare Before Christmas since you were 4?
yeah, I remember
Makes me feel really
that's the
old.
first movie I actually
Trying to
remember
remember
going to the theater and seeing. My
Oh,
dad
wow.
took me and saw it in
Wow.
1992.
Wow.
And when it first came out, and ever since then I just fell in love with it. And then I saw Halloween when I was 6, so I saw Halloween when I was 6, and then probably once a year after that. So I've seen Halloween probably close to 20, 25 times.
Nice.
All right. Now, I'm not going to let you say...
I want to brag real quick.
Yeah, go ahead,
You
brag.
know what the first movie is I can remember seeing in the theater?
What's that?
Is that
Empire Strikes Back.
ooh?
And I was 1.
Yeah, you were really...
You were what? You actually can remember that?
I have visions of it just like up
That's
there.
awesome.
I don't think I saw Empire.
You didn't?
I don't think I saw Empire in the theater. I saw Jedi in the theater.
Me too.
I feel like the oldest movie I can remember seeing is E.T.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You
not
know,
too long.
he
That's
phoned home.
89 or 91?
81, I think.
81.
Or 80.
What's that?
E.T. is 81 or 80?
81, I think.
I've
Wow,
got
I didn't
81
know
in my
he
head, too.
was that long before I was born.
So I'm not.
Yeah.
Gonna, I'm not
to
going
make
to.
you guys feel old now. Then
Now, I'm not
Nothing
gonna,
makes me feel old.
I'm not going to let you say you can't pick one.
okay.
Favorite film, all time. And I don't like the whole like filmmaker like I can't choose one
Because I
thing.
can.
Nah, its thing is like
And also, this
makes me think
answer,
Nightmare Before Christmas almost because
It
you've
is
seen
probably.
It.
I was
Yeah.
about to say it depends on my mood and time of year.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'll say Nightmare Before Christmas is my number one all
Yeah.
the time. Every once in a while, Halloween will pop up in there.
Sure.
I went through a stage where Hellraiser was my number one for a little bit. But I'm obsessed with the Hellraiser mythos for some stupid reason. No, not stupid reason. It's a great reason. It's an incredible mythos that
You like that hell sex.
I love it. It's freaking
That they're always
ridiculous.
having.
I love the Cenobites. They're so
Yeah.
cool.
I'm a big fan of Halloween. That original,
Halloween's
the original
great.
Original one and the second one because they're the
Yeah,
same-
you gotta watch them together, right?
You gotta watch them together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Love when the kid's got the razor blade in his teeth.
Ooh, it's so gnarly.
Think about doing that. They did that back in the 70s, and you're just like, wow.
Yeah,
It's intense.
yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Halloween. Okay, so
Thinking
all right.
about that
Quit-
scene now.
Quit barfing. Quit barfing on the boosters.
I wish I could, but I'm thinking about the razor blade and the teeth and I like that.
All right.
Who?
I think that's going to wrap up this episode. We are going to now draw from the Muppet Bucket.
Oh,
So Steve
yeah.
will draw first, and then I'm going to let Neil draw for me.
Oh, all right.
And now don't forget that. So we're going to have another episode in 2 weeks, but we're also going to have some mini episodes in between this one and the next one for AFI films.
Yeah.
So what will probably the plan? Hopefully the plan will work. The plan is after we see some of the movies, AFI. Those of us that are there, we'll do a short, like anywhere between 1 and 3 minute quick synopsis of what we thought about the film, and then we're going to turn that into little mini podcast episodes that will show up on iTunes and Podbean.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, if you catch us at any of the midnight screenings,
Absolutely,
make sure you grab
I'll
us.
hit you up, yo. All right, Steve.
You know what?
Get-
He's our first special guest. Let's have him pick
Let's
both.
have him pick
Ooh,
first.
the
Oh,
first special
both.
guest?
Let's have him pick both.
All right.
Ooh, that's
Why not,
that's
right?
pressure,
He's
man.
got two
So draw
hands.
one, and then read the title. We'll address it real quickly, and
I'm
then
mixing these
we don't want
around
to say
good.
like if you've seen anything, you don't want to say anything about it. Like don't you know,
Okay.
like oh yeah, this is a great film with so and so or whatever. We'll try not to get too.
All right.
Oh, please
Specific.
pick good ones. Please
Pick
pick good
one.
ones. I got this.
Yeah, you go. You
It's a
got
big
one. Not horror. Not horror. Not horror.
An American in Paris.
Okay,
Oh,
back to
okay.
classics.
I've never seen that one.
Okay.
All right.
A non-horror. Set
Back-
that down right
back
next to you there.
classics.
Okay.
Pick a second one.
Not
Whatever this one
Hodorowski's
is.
Dune.
What is
Please,
this one?
Hodorowski's Dune.
Yeah, please, not the dudes.
Please,
Uh,
Hodorowski's Dune.
A single man.
A single
Interesting. So we have
man.
classic and a modern film.
A single. I keep thinking of a serious man. What is a single man?
A single man. I'll look it up for you so that way I don't say the wrong thing.
That was at AFI last year, I
A
believe.
Might have been.
single man.
I'm trying to get to it. A single. Oh, don't yawn, Steve. It's the Colin
the
Firth,
end of the
Julianne
show.
Moore.
Colin Firth and Julianne
An English professor,
Moore.
1 year after the sudden death of his boyfriend, is unable to cope with his typical days in 1960s Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
I've heard good things about it, so that's why it's in the bucket.
Cool.
So, Viewsters, watch A Single Man and An American in Paris for our next episode.
I was really hoping to say An American Werewolf in London.
Me too.
Or American Werewolf in Paris. Either way.
We've seen.
Did you?
If we see the films, we can't put them in the bucket.
I know.
Although we did put Do the Right Thing in. Well, we didn't put it in the bucket.
No, we selected it because of that's what we decided to name our show after. Can I ask Neil a question real quick?
Of course.
You talked about how
Go for it.
We Are Indie Horror covers haunts.
Yes.
Are you a fan of Halloween Horror Nights?
I was as a kid growing
Okay.
up. I loved Halloween Horror Nights. As I got older, it wasn't enough for me.
So you didn't go last year.
I actually went last year.
Did you go through the American Werewolf in London maze?
I did.
Was that awesome or what?
It was. That's actually was one of my favorites. I love the atmosphere they created with it, and especially knowing that John Landis had a huge part in creating that haunt with John Murdy, who creates the haunts there.
Yeah.
Is an incredible thing, and that really helps when you have the actual filmmaker making the American Werewolf in London.
I fully agree because it was the greatest I've ever been through, and I don't think it's there this year.
It's in Orlando this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have never been to Halloween Horror Nights.
Never ever?
And being a fan of horror films and obviously a fan of film in general and sets and
You would dig
the
it.
magic of it, I'm sure I would. It's always like, I don't spend the money on it.
Those
and-
tickets are nuts.
Yeah.
That's why I went for free.
Oh, man.
We gotta get you a
preview
hookup
nights.
Gotta
somehow.
get a hookup,
You
man.
gotta get preview nights.
I would
That's the way
love.
to go.
I would love to go sometime.
Now there
Every
are
year we
other
talk about
haunts though that are super cheap. And
Yeah,
are
that's
way
not-
fun though.
But the whole point of like wanting to go to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal
See the movies.
is because they build the things from real sets,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So
The
you know,
Nightmare on Elm Street one was my first house I ever went through, and that
Ooh.
scared the hell
yeah,
out of
I
me.
heard it was really
I'm
good.
glad I never
Oh
saw
man,
that.
I got stuck in a room where it was like strobe lights. Freddy was on the one side,
Oh,
and then the strobe light went
no.
off. Then there was no Freddy. Then all of a sudden, I had claws on my shoulder.
Oh, snap.
And I bolted. I was a
Yeah.
kid, and I
Awesome.
just like ran out of the house. I was
That's
like, "Oh
super
my
cool.
god!"
Oh, that would have
My dad
freaked
told
me out.
me. My dad was behind me. He's like, "The amount of curse words that came out of your mouth,
Nice.
I've never thought you could say." And I was like, "It's all your fault. You should have used me when I was 5 years old. It's all your fault."
That's great.
Dads, stop showing us horror movies when we're so very young.
Dad, please do, because otherwise I would not be sitting here talking about horror movies with you guys.
Possibly.
All right. Well, that will wrap it up for this episode. We will see you over the next week or so with these little mini episodes, and then in 2 weeks with these other films. Thanks again to Neil King and We Are Indie
sir.
Horror. Make sure
Thanks,
you go check
Neil.
out their site.
Be
Make sure
sure to keep the fear alive.
Ooh.
There you go. And for Steve and I will sign off. Bon Cinema.